I was saying that the night the book was being overnighted, it just arrived in the mail. It just arrived via FedEx. Boom, during the break. And I just had 2 minutes to read. I cannot, because I love history. I can't wait to read this new book, Scorched Earth, Restoring the Country After Obama. I opened to a page about Edmund Burke, supporting the British Empire, but not supporting the empire erasing countries' cultures, which globalism is doing. And he's so sophisticated. He's probably the smartest talk show host out there when it comes to wide-ranging knowledge. George Norrie's really smart as well. When it comes to passion and taking the globalist on and being well-read, I mean, I'm right up there with Savage, but Savage really is a smart guy. Put it to you this way, I don't learn a lot of stuff from other people on radio. They just take a couple topics, repeat it over and over again, take phone calls. They don't even want to be there. They don't even want to be on air. They don't care. They just want money. Savage doesn't even need to be on air. He's a very successful person, and that's why I admire what he's doing and his plan. And I've been listening to the show. He's been talking about Scorched Earth. I haven't read it yet. Is an excellent one to take back this country and this world. So Michael Savage joining us at the start of the next segment. In fact, there he is. He just came and sat down there. So we're going to come back right after this break and go to Michael Savage. First off, though, let's jam another phone call in here. Who is up next? Let's go ahead and take a call here from Chris in Virginia. You're on the air. Go ahead.
All right, with Hillary falling and coughing and stumbling all over the place, I can't help but think to what Larry Nichols was saying about her trying to use that as sympathy points for the debates. What do you think about that?
You know, a lot of people said months ago, look out, Hillary could be trying to get sympathy. She could play on this, poor little her. The problem is the media lied about it. She lied about it. She's clearly really sick. Okay, I mean, this is not fake. She could try to spin that now and use that crisis. But I don't think Hillary's long for this world. The word we've got from insiders is brain tumor was cut out in 2012. Brain tumor is back and is growing. But regardless, the media only shows her being a little bit dizzy. They don't show her falling on her face. So what this is really about is discrediting the media. What do you think?
I think it is about discrediting the media, and also I think that they're trying to put it out there with the pneumonia thing, even though it's a fake and it's a lie. If they put it out there now before the debates, it gives them some kind of credibility going in there saying that, oh, she had pneumonia or, oh, she was sick.
Well, I totally agree with you that this whole thing about pneumonia is bull. I mean, she hasn't had coughing fits for years from pneumonia. She hasn't been fainting and falling down, having blood clots from pneumonia. First, she said on Sunday that it was just hot out there. And then she said, oh, I was diagnosed with pneumonia. She didn't go to the hospital. She went to Chelsea's $10 million pad. She gets $6 million a year from the Clinton Foundation swindle. So she could, quote, then walk out and hug the little girl behind the police line, the Secret Service line. It doesn't get more staged in Pyongyang, North Korea. Thanks for the call, Chris. Now, we're going to go to John and Mike and Jennifer and Andrew and a lot of other folks. If you want to hold, if not, you can hang up. I'll give the numbers out again later. After Michael Savage leaves us at the bottom of the hour, we're going to go to break and come back with Michael Savage to talk about currently what's happening, the dirty tricks he thinks they're going to play, and how we counter them, and then how we would restore this country if a Donald J. Trump gets in. So when you talk about deplorables, I've been attacked by name. I know that the vice presidential candidate attacked me again and said I'm one of the top deplorables. But I tell you, we're talking to maybe the king deplorable when we come back, according to the globalists, the leftists, the scum, the communists, the socialists, the New World Order people, because Michael Savage has been one of the chief thorns in their side for decades. So we're going to ask one of the top deplorables where he thinks this is going and how we defeat them straight ahead. The book that's just now coming out is Scorched Earth, Restoring the Country After Obama. Michael Savage, #1 New York Times bestseller. And you can go to michaelsavage.wnd.com, and we'll also give you his website on the other side, michaelsavage.com, the home of the Savage Nation, borders, language, culture. All this and more. Scorched Earth, now available. I'm Alex Jones. This is the InfoWar. You can find us at Infowars.com. Well, I got to tell you, there's probably 3 people in the last few decades that have been on the front lines of fighting globalism and getting made fun of it. That's Michael Savage, Alex Jones, and Matt Drudge. And I guess we're all here today because I'm told he just talked to Drudge, and Drudge is tuned in right now. Scorched Earth, Restoring the Country After Obama, Michael Savage. Very powerful book. Just got it today. Been thumbing through it. I'm a big history buff. Cannot wait to read this book. We need to make this #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. It is a manifesto against the globalists that have literally taken this country and Europe over. Brexit is only the beginning. The globalists are panicking in every major publication they run. The Economist, the New York Times, the Washington Post, saying that if Trump defeats Hillary, the New World Order is basically broke back. So we are in the title match of history. Everyone should go to bookstores to make this the #1 book. Buy it in bookstores everywhere today. Scorched Earth. This is the front lines of the info war. Joining us for the next 20 minutes or so is Michael Savage of the Savage Nation, one of the top radio shows in the country, New York Times bestselling author. You've got the floor, my friend. Let's talk about where we are, what we're facing. 2 minutes to midnight.
Well, number one, you are really the field marshal of it all, Alex. Come on, we know that they're more afraid of you and InfoWars than almost anyone else in the media. I mean, you, Matt Drudge, there aren't too many left. That's what's worrisome, isn't it, Alex? And you were named by this evil machine specifically. And I would say that, you know, you say hyperbole and this and that. We are one bad election away from losing everything, which is on the back of my book cover. And I don't know that we can recover from Obama's scorched earth policies. We know he's trampled the Constitution. And I don't know how any of your listeners, you know, whatever the side they're on, you know, and I know you get all the opposition listening. And I'd like all of the good progressives who listen to Alex to see if they can nail him to a cross. Tell me that one of these things has not magnified under this cretin in the White House. Is this not becoming a third world nation of terror? Check yes. Riots? Check Black Lives Matter. Mobs? Check Black Lives Matter. Chaos? Check Barack Obama. Terror, riots, mobs, and chaos. This is a novelty in American history. I haven't seen anything like this historically since the 60s. And before that, when was the last time you've seen America like this? And the beauty of all of this, Alex, is how he's gotten away with it, because you've got to give him credit. Barry Obama is the slickest salesman of communism the world has ever discovered. No screaming, no yelling, no threats, just a silk smooth, good-looking, nice guy with a lovely wife and children, selling the most evil poison the world has ever been asked to ingest. And look how far he's gotten. And every time he gets away with another outrage against this nation, he raises the stakes like a junkie. He needs a higher dose of insult in order to maintain the high. Am I wrong, Alex?
You're dead on, Mr. Savage. Dr. Savage, please continue.
So the question is, okay, I'm complaining about him. I'm saying she's worse, which is true, which is ludicrous. She says America wants change. From what? From the same policies she's going to continue? She's suddenly not a progressive lunatic? Wait a minute. She's going to change Obama's policies in which way? Make them worse? How she can't go the other way, then she'd be Donald Trump. So it means she's going to make it even worse than him. That's if she remembers what she's supposed to do, and that's doubtful, as you well know, because she doesn't know how many times she fainted. So the point is, how do we uncouple this insanity? It is going to be really hard. You know and I know there was a UAC in the 1950s, and it's a dirty word of the most dirty of words, the House of Un-American Activities Committee, which was run by one of the great American patriots, Senator McCarthy. He has been completely decimated by the left. McCarthy was a tail gunner in World War II, one of the most dangerous positions you could ever have in an airplane, right? Belly gunner, B-24.
Easiest target was the tail. That's what they attacked.
Listen what the left did to him. They mocked him and called him Tail Gunner Joe. In other words, they took his heroism and tried to turn it into a mockery. That was in the 50s, Alex, to show you who they were already, the communists. So what was McCarthy saying, this great war hero? He was saying that Hollywood had been infiltrated by communists. The journalists had been infiltrated by communists. Academia had been infiltrated by communists, and the government itself. Well, what happened was they had the hearings. They ruined him. They destroyed the man. And then what happened in the 1990s, I'm sure you remember the book, the Venona Papers came out. It was a Soviet-Russian publication.
Turned out it was all true. The Russian documents came out, and it was worse than what McCarthy was saying.
Worse. It confirmed who in Hollywood, who in academia, who in government was, in fact, an operative of the Soviet Union. So there were subversives. UAC was exactly on target. I say the only way we can save this nation is not talking about it, but by rooting out the subversives in the United States of America. And I know many libertarians are afraid of this for fear that it will turn on them. Well, let's put that fear aside for the moment.
In fact, let me just add this since you're saying this, because this is a point I want to make. If you look at the globalists, if you look at their leftists, they're saying the alt-right can't be tolerated. They're saying we need to be shut down and arrested. Hillary says she's going to shut down Breitbart. That means Drudge, you. They say they're bringing back fairness doctrine. They say they're coming after us. They're run by this foreign globalist Soros. Russia's already kicked him out. These are foreign globalists here overthrowing our country. So under the Constitution, these aren't even citizens. They don't have the rights. They're here overthrowing the system. To survive, we must go on the offensive. We must root them out. It's the only way to ever beat them. They are criminals. They are subversives. They are Saul Alinsky pledging to Lucifer. Please continue.
Yeah, they want to lynch all of us, if not electronically, then physically. And the fact of the matter is they have names. These are not nameless, faceless organizations. The number one and the worst of them all, in my humble opinion, is the ACLU. The Anti-Christian Liberties Union is the number one. They're the head of the snake. Now, the man behind all of it is George Soros, the most evil man on the planet, in my estimation, the absolutely most evil person the world has seen in modern times. You know, you don't have to hang people, electrocute them, put them in cages. You don't have to do the things that ISIS is doing to be evil. He's evil on a larger scale than the ISIS executioners are, because he's gutting the United States of America. He's trampling on our Constitution.
He helped fund the Arab Spring. He helped fund the Arab Spring. Hillary, all of them.
Amen. And I keep saying she owns it. He was the one who, by the way, he funded it. But you know who was the architect, the best I can put together, was Zbigniew Brzezinski,
That's
Jimmy
right.
Carter's national security advisor. Brzezinski was the architect. Soros was the financier. Hillary Clinton was the publicist and an actor, along with John Kerry.
I'd say she was the quarterback with Kerry and Obama.
She destroyed the Middle East. She owns that. How does the media, forget the media, why doesn't Trump put her on a cross with that
And
one?
by the way, Mr. Savage, Dr. Savage, that's not hyperbole. She literally destabilized 20-something countries that Al-Qaeda and ISIS are running around. Hundreds of thousands of dead Christians. They won't even let Christians out of the region. These people are demons, just like the true liberal Assange said, look, I've got the documents. The press is dead if she gets in. Our necks are in nooses. She's a demon. You must stop her.
I hear you. And I also saw who wrote the other day that Obama, the nice, slick, smooth, nice family man, has created the greatest surveillance state in the history of the world. And suddenly liberals are afraid of it because they understand what happens when the guillotine starts falling. First, it takes out your opposition. But as the world learned during the French Revolution, the guillotine has an unlimited taste for blood. And it doesn't stop with the enemies of the revolution. Then they turn on their own kind and start executing their own so-called counter-revolutionaries, as was done in the Soviet Union.
Always happens.
As was done in Cuba, as was done in Hitler's Germany. They killed their own.
The brown shirts.
And the guillotine keeps falling and cuts heads. It is the most thirsty instrument on earth. And that's why the left ought to step up and shut their fat mouths when we stand up to these monsters. These monsters need to be stopped or we're all finished, left, right, and center.
That's right. So how do we stop them? Your book, I just got it, incredible, gets into the blueprint, sir, with your incredible historical understanding. How do we beat these bastards? Because they know we've got them in a corner now, but what tricks are they going to play? And then if we get Trump in, the battle just begins. What do we do?
Oh, you said the magic words. If Trump wins, the battle begins because we know he is surrounded by neocons. We see that. I was shocked to read yesterday he hired Woolsey.
Yeah.
Woolsey, the former head of the CIA under Bill Clinton, is now going to be his CIA director. So I laid in bed last night. I said, wait a minute, what is this about? And I said, well, you know, the CIA is a complicated organization. I mean, you need someone who knows how to run it, right? But look at Woolsey's track record. How could he join it as a senior advisor? Why him? Isn't there a returning combat veteran who worked in military intelligence who would have been a better choice? Some higher-up American citizen, patriot?
Somebody like General
head up
Flynn.
the CIA under Trump. Why Woolsey? Why Foggy Bottom all over again? Okay, but Alex, I don't want to waste your
No, please take over.
Well, the way to defeat the enemy is to know your enemy. The way to know your enemy is to name the enemy. So who are the subversive organizations who have destroyed and are destroying our civil liberties? We know the ACLU. We know the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Yeah.
We know CARE. In my opinion, those are the three top of them. But I want to read to you all the others. Can I do that? because I made a whole list in Scorched Earth. I studied the cockroaches, and I said, let's bring them into the light and expose them, make them scatter like cockroaches when you turn on the light. The request I am making, Alex Jones, and to all your listeners is this. Name subversive organizations. As organizations you consider to be so far off the ideal of the American way that they are in fact subversive. And what does that mean? That means they spend all of their resources going against the wishes of the Constitution and the taxpayer. So who are they? I have a list. They're right here. Who are these organizations?
They're trying to conquer us.
They've done a pretty good job so far.
They see us as deplorable because we just want to be free.
National Lawyers Guild. Who are they? One of the most dangerous activist groups in the nation. Every time there was a riot by Black Thugs Matter at an anti-police protest, the scum in the National Lawyers Guild sent out their deranged psychotic lawyers from the worst law schools in America to make sure the police could not do their jobs. Every last shyster in the National Lawyers Guild is the type of lawyer that you have come to hate in plain English. Now, of course, they will argue that they're just for the underdog, that they're for the poor immigrant and the oppressed minority. Well, you know what? I don't buy it. I want a lawyers guild for the tax-paying middle class, Alex, not a lawyers guild for the subversives who are bringing in refugees, immigrants, whatever you want to call them, by the tens of millions.
And we have the Soros emails where he admits it's to destabilize the country. He admits destabilization.
Who admitted that?
George Soros in the latest D.C. leaks and others. He's in there admitting that it's a plan to overthrow Europe and the U.S. and create racial strife.
Correct. Alliance for Democracy, Amnesty International, Black Lives Matter, Center for American Progress, Center for Media and Democracy. I'll read a few of them. Center for Science and the Public Interest, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics. I have 2 pages that I researched, Alex, in my book.
Is Media Matters and David Brock in there?
They're all over the place. You name these organizations, it's like a spider web. Rockefeller Brothers Foundation, Blue Moon Fund, things you never heard of.
Ford Foundation.
Joyce Foundation. Who ever heard of the Joyce Foundation? HKH Foundation, Dolan Charitable Trust, Vanguard Foundation, Archer Foundation, Saul Alinsky's Back of the Yards Community Council, National Hip Hop Political Convention, Cuban Council of Churches. People don't even know these organizations. These cockroaches are crawling all over us, devouring our flag of liberty, Al.
You're absolutely right. And they admit they want to collapse us and our borders into a world government. Dr. Savage, when you say the battle just begins, and I say that if Trump gets in, and I'm not counting our chickens yet, I mean, why do you say the battle just begins? We just lost to Skype. Skype is a wondrous thing, but it has its issues. Ladies and gentlemen, this is so historical. The establishments control the left and the right to bring in globalism, but they're making their worldwide takeover with the left. And this is not a liberal group. Liberal means lower taxes, more freedom, more control locally. This is not liberal. They call themselves liberal. They have the moral high ground. The Republican establishment is working with them in a big, big way. The book is Scorched Earth, Restoring the Country After Obama. Michael Savage. We're listeners supported by you, our main sponsor, the listeners. We have Hillary for President shirts at cost, $9.95. That includes the shipping, $9.95. $9.95 shipping and the shirt all together. That funds the operation. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com for our supplements. But get the book, Scorched Earth, Restoring the Country After Obama, Michael Savage. Get it in stores so that it becomes basically an end cap and a bestseller to educate people that are not aware of what's happening. Because that's Michael Savage's real skill, I found. That's something I'm able to do as well. Most of these mainline right-wingers can't do it because they're just following a script, is that he's able to get leftists, a lot of them that mean well, out of their cocoon. And Dr. Savage continuing with these subversive organizations in the 5-6 minutes we have left. You promised to come back next week if your voice isn't out. I really appreciate you to do more and talk about the campaign. But hitting some of these other areas, her health, her cover-up, the mainstream media's ratings imploding, them trying to start all these new wars. Russia, I'm not lionizing Putin, but he's bringing back nationalism. He's arrested and thrown out all the Soros people as subversive. I mean, just all the crazy things happening. It seems there's a quickening. Do you agree with that? And what does this signify?
What you just said, you explained it better than I could, Alex. I mean, you see the global picture. The fact is, which one do you want me to talk about?
Anyone you want. Just, I mean, the top, top things.
I'll talk about something that in the middle of us talking about and me listing all the subversive organizations. that I researched in Scorched Earth. Did you notice what happened? We lost the connection, that my Skype dropped. Did you catch that one?
It's crazy. Well, they admit Google's all game, the internet's game. They admit they're blocking terms for searching on Hillary. They admit they're censoring patriot groups in Europe that criticize open borders. It's crazy.
You mentioned a key word there, Google. For weeks, I've been railing against the monopolies that have emerged in America under Obama, the dictator. Google, Facebook, Microsoft, of course, had been there before. Look at these companies. They're violating the antitrust statutes of the United States legal system. There is an antitrust division of the U.S. Justice Department that does not touch Mark Zuckerberg, does not touch the Google boys, does not touch Bill Gates. And there's a reason, because they all support the globalist New World Order agenda. They support it to the nth degree. And I've been screaming that when Trump becomes president, he must reactivate and use the Justice Department to break up these monopolies and give other people a chance to build a business. And I make a point of Teddy Roosevelt, who was a populist, as you well know, and his campaign slogan was bust the trusts. The trusts in his day were Standard Oil, Rockefeller's Railroads, an oil company that dominated railroads and dominated the oil business. They didn't give anyone a chance of emerging. If they did, they crushed them.
And it's the same globalist grandkids today that are running globalism.
Zuckerberg, $58 billion isn't enough for that pig. He needs to cut the wages of American workers and throw them out of the country and bring in Indians who work for 1/3 the wage. God bless India. God bless their intelligence. God bless India.
But we got to look out for us a little bit.
They belong in India. Let them rebuild their own economy and let them hire IT workers at a right salary. So, yeah, you want to talk about jobs. Why do you think, no, not you, I'm talking rhetorically.
Listener, sure.
Why do you think Trump is surging amongst the blue-collar, disenfranchised white male? Why? Because they've been dumped upon. They've been stepped upon. The Eddies, whose grandfathers defeated Hitler, the Eddies whose fathers died in the jungles of Vietnam, are being crapped upon by these vermin, these cowardly vermin, these sick, deviant perverts. I can't stand it. I'll get worked up, and I don't want to. I'm trying not to, Alex. This is the first interview I've done.
Wow.
For this book.
Thank you.
And Alex, I got to tell you, you're on the front lines. You're going to be around a lot longer than I am in the media and probably on this planet. And you're doing the job that needs to be done. And all I can say is, as the time comes to an end right here, when I say that Obama and the left are practicing a scorched earth policy, there's a reason for it. When an army retreated in the past, they burnt everything to the ground. They burnt the crops. They killed the livestock. They burned the barns.
Scorched
they burned
earth.
the houses. Is that not what's going on here with this left when they see an ascendant right, an ascendant American
That's right. They're blowing it all up.
They're burning our pathways to survival. They're burning our internet. They want to burn radio. They want to burn any access.
They're trying to start race war. They're saying kill the cops. They're getting away with everything.
I keep saying, Soros gave them $70 million to those street thugs. All we need now is Obama to turn them into his well-funded private army. He can deputize them and give them government arms as he did ISIS. And then you will have the young pioneers of the Soviet Union. You will have the Red Brigades. You will have the Red Brigades of communist China frightening everybody in the society on a daily basis. Alex, we're that close to it all coming to that. Obama is not finished yet. He has several months left yet to burn it all down, Alex.
I agree. We've only got a minute left then. In your gut, you're a smart cookie, Dr. Savage. What do you expect them to pull?
Remember what George Bush did in the last few months of his regime? I was screaming and warning George Bush is a fiscal socialist. He's not through yet. Do you remember the housing crisis that followed? I expect that if it looks like Trump is going to win or Grandma falls off the stage again for good and they replace it with Freddie from one of the Nightmare movies, Kane, who can't win, I expect the worst. I expect them calling off the election. I expect martial law. I expect, if that is not possible, I expect a complete financial breakdown to create even further chaos. That's what I expect.
I concur with that. So every person, every race, color, and creed that wants to live in a somewhat free country now be involved, spread the word, expose these people. They're all over the news pushing the idea of suspending the election now because of Hillary. The book, Scorched Earth, in bookstores all over the country. Michael Savage, michaelsavage.com. Thank you so much for spending so much time with us today. We got about 45 seconds. Final point.
There is no final point. The nation is wrecked right now. It's going to be unredeemably destroyed unless the Republican candidate wins. And I keep saying Republican candidate now because if I say the word Trump, people turn off. There are so many anti-Trump fake conservatives out there that the minute you say Trump, they go into overdrive. So say the Republican candidate. That makes it a little easier for them to recognize that there is a choice right now.
They're really showing themselves as operatives, aren't they?
Oh, all the people who hate Alex Jones and Michael Savage, who are true blue conservatives, who are they? Who are they, Alex?
We don't even need to say their names because they've destroyed themselves. That's the good news. They're losing the war. They've revealed themselves. The fight's now out in the open. And Dr. Savage, my gut tells me we're going to win in the end. What do you think? Well,
with men like Glenn Beck rubbing his face in cornflakes, who was obviously a very... you look at him putting his face in cornflakes... The man is obviously a very disturbed individual who was never on any solid ground. And I have said before, liberalism is a mental disorder.
You, sir, are absolutely right. You've charted the course. God bless you. Thank you, Michael Savage. Get the book, folks.
Alex.
Incredible interview. All right, Tracy Martin, the admitted longtime chef of the Clintons, who heard amazing stuff. You're going to get an exclusive right now. About to join us in about 2 minutes. Michael Savage, a best-selling author, researcher in the WikiLeaks. Hillary getting him blocked from traveling to the UK. They now admit to set a precedent to ban anybody they want from traveling. I mean, you talk about Nazi Germany, folks. That gets overused. This is the essence of authoritarianism. The Democrats have tried to get travel bans if the IRS opens an audit up where you can't travel outside the U.S. They now want to expand it to just flying, period. These are internal checkpoints. The book is Scorched Earth, Restoring the Country After Obama. Dr. Savage is our guest. 20 days, ladies and gentlemen, to the election. Doctor, you got cut off by that hard break I had to take. Recapping for folks that just joined us, some thousands a second are tuning in. Clearly, they came out and said, we're federalizing elections. Oh, my God, the Russians and Trump want to steal it. Then Trump goes, I think you'll try to rig it. Democrats are famous for that. They've now been caught in New York already doing it in early voting. They respond going, you're insane. Election fraud doesn't exist. I mean, that's an exact quote of Obama. So I'm living in this crazy world where they're federalizing the elections, first time ever, taking them over because of an unprecedented threat. When Trump says you might try to steal it, they go, you're insane, it doesn't exist. So Dr. Savage, you talked to him yesterday on air. What do you think's happening?
I said to Donald, here's what they're doing. They're setting it up as follows. For 3-4 months, they've been saying the Russians are hacking our elections. They're to protect our elections, which are sacred. We want to turn it over to DHS, to the genius who's given us one terrorist attack after another and has done nothing to stop it. He still has his job, right? So he wants to now make sure our elections are safe. Russians are hacking. Follow the bouncing ball.
No proof.
If Trump wins, which is highly likely, by the way, which we can talk about in a minute or two or another time, Trump wins, government declares, oh, we have evidence that the Russians hacked it. He's a friend of Putin. The election is null and void. We're going to recall another election in, 6 months? Until then, Mr. Obama has graciously agreed to continue his public service in the United States of America. Thank you very much. We're not taking any questions. Goodbye.
And we have Biden announcing they're going to launch a giant cyber attack on the Russians and saying if the Russians respond, they may respond militarily, which is a doctrine Hillary came out with 2 months ago. And suddenly NATO announced that's their new doctrine. She's literally calling the show.
All I wanted to say was, I said it to Donald and he didn't take the bait. I'm glad he didn't. I said, don't even answer me because they'll crucify you if you agree with me. They're going to steal the election. I'll make it simple. In the 5th grade, I ran for class president in Queens, New York. I was a funny kid. I was a wild kid. I was out of control. I won the election by a landslide. The teacher stood up and said, this election doesn't count. I don't want Michael to be president. She had another election, and I wasn't class president. So, hey, look, if it can be done in the 5th grade in the Bronx when I was a kid, why can't they do it to us now, right? We're just children.
I had a similar thing happen. When you really do things in this world, you start to learn how rigged they are. And it's just crazy to see them go, even sometimes in the same newscast, the Russians are rigging the election. We're having to bring in the UN to oversee it. And then meanwhile, Trump's crazy. He says they're rigging the election, even as we catch election officials admitting the fraud. We do have a minute or two more if you've got it. Elaborate on what you're saying. I mean, I agree. The internal polls I know from Trump, but also other big groups are doing internal polls, 5, 10, 15 points ahead in most battleground states. He's going to win in a landslide. They're only creating the perception he's way behind, so we buy it right now. Do you concur with that, A? B, what happens when he gets in?
100% right. You and I think the same way. I said to Donald yesterday on my radio show, I said, Donald, I said, what they're doing is they're not trying to get Hillary, people to vote for Hillary. They've got all the people they could ever get. I said, what they're trying to do is discourage Trump voters from voting by thinking that it's over already. They're trying to make them think that he lost, that she won, so they're going to throw their hands up and not vote for him. I said, this whole election hinges upon one thing right now, voter turnout. The black people are not turning out for Hillary. They don't like her. The Hispanic people are really not that excited about Hillary
She
Clinton.
has no crowds.
And it's the Hispanic men have always liked Trump, as I said 6 months ago, for a number of reasons. One, most of them come here to work very hard to become an American. They have the wives and the children. They want a house with a picket fence, and they look at Donald Trump as a man they'd like to be like, not a man they hate. They look at her and they say, ugh, whatever. So it's all voter turnout. He's got to make sure that people think he can still win, which he can. And then if all of us who are supporting him come out, I think he will win. It's that simple.
That's right. You can't steal landslides. I've interviewed experts who are Democrats, Republicans, Diebold engineers from the highest levels. They agree. You cannot steal a landslide because it is cobbled together how the systems work. And the battleground states are key. We'll be obviously listening to the Savage Nation with Michael Savage. That comes on in just a few hours. And we'll obviously be following. We have full election coverage tomorrow night, live with the debates, Infowars.com/show, MichaelSavage.com, the new book, Scorched Earth. Thank you so much for joining us.
Always the best, Alex. Watch your back.
You too, absolutely. And again, a lot of people in talk radio can't believe that I have other talk show hosts on, or he's had me on his show and has some of our reporters on. We just want to save the country, folks. Michael Savage has had hundreds of best-selling books. I think it's over 100. 3 or 4 number one. You know, he doesn't need the money. His family, he's very successful in business. I don't need the money. I don't want to do this. I don't want to take on mass murderer Hillary Clinton, but I've got to, or there's no damn future. And I see these other arrogant talk show hosts that they just love attacking other hosts. They love trying to be number one, having these pissing contests. I don't want to lose my Second Amendment. I don't want to lose what little private property rights we have and religious rights. And I don't want to live in a country overrun by a bunch of people wearing hoods over their heads that keep women as slaves. And it's for me, it's total ideology. And there's only one other host nationally that gets it, and that's Michael Savage. And that's what's so refreshing about it, and that's why we've got to fight. You've got Drudge Report over there as well telling the truth, Breitbart doing it, and they're saying, oh, the media, the right-wing media is getting more radical. No, we're getting more awake, okay? We're facing a world government takeover by private corporate megabanks. It's in all the WikiLeaks. They say their philosophy's making us poor to control us. That's called slavery, people. I'm anti-slavery, and I'm angry. And we're in a crisis. And I just look at these criminals on TV laughing at us. All these people that wrote Obamacare, they go on TV and laugh at us, and they go on C-SPAN and Charlie Rose and CNN and laugh at us. It's like, man, it's time you get your teeth knocked out. I mean, I'm not a violent person, but politically, I mean that as a metaphor, I want to take a baseball bat to their teeth. These people are bullies that have never been checked. It's exactly what Savage said. Now, our next guest is giving us this exclusive today. There's only been one other short interview, but this is an official interview with Tracy Martin on record, who was the travel chef for the Clintons. They were traveling at the time, so one of their main chefs on record, senior partner at Burns, Martin and Associates, a culinary staffing and events management firm. And people will pay for a lot coming out and do this. There's a lot of courage. People die for this. Their other chef got killed just last year. He was executive sous chef for the catering at the Kennedy Center, performing arts and travel chef in the Clinton White House. He worked in private services for Mrs. Robert Kennedy and other members of the family. So by going public here, folks, he's flushing all this, but he wants you to know the truth. This is a hero. He co-owned the staffing agency Wolf, Martin and Associates, and owned and operated a movable feast catering company in Chattanooga. And after all this, folks, you need to hire his company because he's not going to get any business from the Blue Bloods. He studied culinary arts in Europe at Le Cordon Bleu. I'm not going to go through it all. It's a top chef, obviously. And he has put on parties and worked for Margaret Thatcher, Helmut Kohl, President George H.W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, the Chinese president. It goes on and on. Boris Yeltsin, you name it. So he's one of the top chefs in the world. He joins us. And I'm going to talk about why he's having to do this. This is amazing because again, it's one thing if you're an independent talk show host, tell the truth and get the threats and stuff. But man, when your job is, you know, feeding the elite and the rest of it, it's amazing. So Tracy Martin, we appreciate your courage. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you.
Where does it start? I mean, what takes you to this point of having to do this, sir?
Well, I feel like it's my moral obligation as a concerned citizen, as a taxpayer, having seen what went on with their administration, how this woman has sat on every side of the issue and still can sit there and tell us, you know, what she wants us to believe. And it just came to a point where I was courted by Tom Barley for quite some time to come forward, and I hadn't, but Tom Barley sort of broke the story open on his show, and it just sort of went from there.
Wow. Well, again, being one of their executive chefs worldwide and to other world leaders for many, many years, and, you know, obviously, I mean, close to them specifically, why are you going public? What did you witness Hillary Clinton do? I had former Secret Service agent Burns on yesterday who said that he saw and heard disparaging marks towards Hispanics by her. But he went on to say she was mean and nasty to everyone, including hitting Secret Service agents in the back of the head with Bibles and things. Describe what you witnessed, sir.
Well, first of all, with Mrs. Clinton, if, you know, I got what I used to say when I could talk, when I couldn't talk, is that, you know, no matter where we went, she'd come in, she'd be grateful, say thank you to the back of the house, people in the kitchen, etc. But that was always if there was press around. She's a completely different person when the camera's not on her. And I ran into an incident. I was at the Elizabeth Taylor Medical Center in Washington, D.C., and we were doing a tea with Mrs. Chirac, the former French president's wife. And it was just Mrs. Clinton, Mrs. Chirac, and myself in the same room. And one of the people brought in something, and it did not please her, and she used the N-word very openly to me. And I think that's a general pattern when they talk like that. That's not like they say it just on, you know, out of the clear blue.
Again, former top chef to the Clintons, Mr. Martin, can you walk through specifically what was happening in the conversation, what was said?
Well, what had happened with the conversation is I was just, like I said, Mrs. Chirac, Mrs. Clinton, and myself in there. I was just serving them tea. Because as a travel chef, I did not do stuff in the White House. I did stuff outside of the White House. And we went places.
You were their travel chef. Continue.
So we had somebody bring in something. I think it was like some tea sandwiches or whatever, and it wasn't exactly what she wanted. So she tells me to tell that N-word to please, you know, leave and get what she wants. I mean, that's very common. I mean, just the demeanor and she would write things down like that to, you know, she had so many handlers. And when I worked for them in Washington, I used to think to myself, you know, because the parties aside, I thought, you know, this is great. I'm a kid that grew up on a small farm in Chautauqua County. And here I am working for the free leader of the world. So you sort of you know, you don't look at this other small stuff. And then one day you realize, you know, they're really terrible people.
Wow. So just to be clear, Tracy Martin,
she's going to do us any better. I mean, she tells us one thing, she does something totally opposite. And now with all the WikiLeaks information coming out, everything that I've said for the last few years is all proven. Just like Donald Trump has said, it's all coming out.
So you've last few years talked to folks about this, but now you're starting to go on air because it's being backed up by the WikiLeaks. Now, again, the executive chef when they were worldwide travel, Tracy Martin joined us. He's on record, doing these events for years, and other presidents. If you just tuned in, please elaborate. Or did I hear you wrong? Did you say that she even did handwritten letters sometimes saying N-word this, N-word that? I mean, did I hear you say?
Yes, that is definitely correct.
Please elaborate, sir.
Well, you know, if you know, a lot of times because they have so many handlers and everything, they just scratch things down on paper just because you need to be quiet. There's a lot of people around. Just take care of this.
No, that's what lawyers do. She's a lawyer, so she's writing notes, handing them to you. What'd she write?
I mean, without, like, tell that, I mean, N-word, that, that I don't need them or to go out or, whatever, or that, she could say that bitch over there or whatever. I mean, when you'd want to say, is that you?
Well, that's what I've talked to Secret Service and others. They say she goes out of her way to attack everyone, and if it's Hispanic, it'll be a Hispanic prerogative, slang term, disparaging term. If it's black person, white person, they'll do it. If it's a woman, it's a bitch. If it's a man, it's a... what other type of things does she write or say to you over the years?
Well, I think in general, it's just her condescending attitude, because the Clintons, no matter what, they are a machine. They made they're not a couple. When he was running for office, he said, we are in a partnership. All it is a money machine. It has been that way since day one, and it's still that way 30 years later. Well,
I've talked to Secret Service agents on and off the record, and they say it's like she doesn't have a real personality. There's either this fake one that's very charming or this crazy, hateful one. But I've talked to other military people, and I brought up the Secret Service and said, how do you know that? And they didn't want me to even go there because it sounds so nuts. They think they'll be discrediting, but I'll just say it. They say Hillary almost like switches off. She'll go, I'm going to rest now, and just go, psst. And
it was almost like, don't forget you're working for the Clintons. That type of an attitude. No matter what, no matter where, it was always about the Clintons. And like I said in Tom Barley's interview, they just for an example, they bought that house when they left the government in Chappaqua. They have a Secret Service booth. They are billing the U.S. government rent for that Secret Service booth, which in turn is paying for their mortgage. The same thing with her large home in Washington, D.C. We, as the government, are paying for their mortgages.
Now, specifically,
the Clinton Initiative, which is the Clinton Global Initiative, which is just a money machine for them.
Tracy Martin, executive chef, when they traveled for many years, were there ever any other cases where she verbally said, go tell that N-word to do this or that? Because you were saying many times she would write it. Was it many times writing it and just once verbally, or were there ever any other racial slurs you heard her say?
No, I think verbally. I mean, like with Hispanics, with anybody. I mean, it's just, they are so, that sense of self-entitlement and so far above everybody else.
So that's what the Secret Service said. They said it almost wasn't even like it was a race. It was just this arrogance to attack everyone, and I'm better than everybody, and use whatever pejorative there is. That's what I've been getting. So specific.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. It's they are above everybody. And they have that so ingrained in themselves that they really believe that.
Wow. What did she say about Hispanics?
Well, I just think it's not just necessarily Hispanics or African Americans, American Indians. It could be anybody.
No, I understand. She attacked everybody by whatever their bad handle was, but what did she say about Hispanics?
Well, to me directly, I have not heard her, but I've heard people that have heard her say, about Hispanics, about the way they, their funny accents and the way they talk, or can't they get this right or whatever. I mean, everything is at their convenience.
So just an elitism that's those dumbass, those dumbass Hispanics. Just, It was more just of an elitism, like they weren't competent, is what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. Nobody was competent. I don't care if you're African American, if you're Muslim.
This is 5 minutes to the next hour. We have other guests joining us. Obviously, this is a big news-making interview. Paul Watson has an interview up on Infowars.com breaking down Tracy Martin, the fact that he did work for the Clintons as their travel chef and has worked for other world leaders, has a lot of courage to do this and to come out. But this is what everyone tells me. You don't look her in the eyes. She screams and yells. She doesn't give tips. She treats people terribly. When she sees a person in a wheelchair, she says, get that GD cripple away from me. When people bring dogs in to search her room, she just always screams at the military. I mean, she goes out of her way to be a demon. But if the cameras are around, she's totally loving. But the minute the camera turns off, it's like she's got to balance it out by being nasty. It's like she's got multiple personalities, Tracy Martin.
Absolutely.
Well, you got the floor. I mean, you were getting cut off by the break. You were just getting into the fact, basically mirroring what Mr. Burns, the Secret Service agent, said yesterday, was just that she just hated everybody, but did use the racial pejoratives.
Well, like I said, I think the Clintons, she especially, has a sense of self-entitlement. She is above and beyond. I mean, her true belief, I think, is she's above and beyond everyone. She has no, I mean, she takes no solace in who she talks about, who she talks to. I mean, I've seen Secret Service trying to protect her and the way she downgrades her conversations to them. I mean, to people, of anybody. And
you mean she talks to them like they're...
Just cover her for everything.
She talks to them like they're children, is what you're saying?
Pardon me?
When you say downgrades conversation, what do you mean?
Well, like she downgrades them. I mean, because, you know, like I said,
she puts them down. Give us an example. I know you're wanting to be polite here, but you're a guy that puts on, you know, world-famous dinners, and you're all about decor, but decorum, I mean, just give us an example.
Well, I think, like with Secret Service, I mean, you know, she just, like, the demanding attitude. You know, we're all supposed to be subservient to them. They're the only people that count ever. Even if we were in a like, for example, this event with Mrs. Chirac, I mean, it was like we'd have to wait for Mrs. Clinton because, you know, God forbid if she was to wait for anybody else.
You know, Obama's done evil stuff. Obama's done evil stuff.
That way, and I was involved. My end of my term with them was when the whole Monica thing broke loose, and I mean, just to see how they would show up in church every Sunday, high and mighty, and here we go, because that's the way it was. I mean, they cannot do wrong. They believe they do no wrong anywhere.
Well, I was about to say, I'm not defending Obama for his record, but Secret Service people say he's real nice in person comparatively. And that's like a few weeks ago in Tel Aviv, he's like, for 20 minutes, Bill's making him wait. He finally goes, Bill, get on the plane. And it's like they're so entitled, what I've heard. They just think they're God, basically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And no matter what, I mean, we were doing an event out at Hickory Hill at Mrs. Robert Kennedy's. This is after I was done with the Clintons. And we were doing, I believe it was an Easter brunch. And you know, there again, you're waiting for them. You know, and it's, you know, when you're at that position in the world, you can pretty much get away with whatever you want.
But they enjoy it. They do it on purpose, is what I'm told. So we're getting a clear picture of their psychology, and I'm going to get a top psychiatrist to listen to this and analyze with other interviews. We're going to break about 5 more minutes with you, sir. I'd like to have you back up soon. And we appreciate your courage. It's amazing. But let me ask you this question. Did Hillary Clinton ever have a foul odor? Because a lot of people we talk to say she stunk a lot.
Not to me. I tried not to get that close. I just dealt with what I had to do my job.
Did you ever hear anyone else say she had a foul odor?
I have heard people say, you know, about her.
Well, stay right there. We're going to come right back. Stay with us. Well, if you don't think Tracy Martin, the world-renowned executive top chef, served major presidents, world leaders, you name it, and was the Clintons' travel chef, isn't putting his business, his life, his name on the line in a big way, well, then you're not paying attention. I know most of you know that, but want to recognize his courage right now. And everybody else has been speaking out and telling the truth, like Secret Service agent Burns yesterday. I've talked to Secret Service on and off record. I've talked to a lot of people. The reason I bring up the smell is it's part of psychological research. Psychopaths, sociopaths, and others tend to not clean themselves, especially when they get in a position of power. And it's just all part of, you know, being the boss. And I'm not going to get into some of the other things they do, but it just goes to their mindset. We got 4 minutes. I appreciate your time. You've got the floor. You're risking your life, your treasure, your name. We salute you. You don't got a book out, nothing. You're just here telling the truth. And so other points you'd like to relay to the world about why you're going public?
Well, I think, as I had said in my Tom Barley, the original interview, I feel it is my obligation because, you know, I sat in the back pictures silent for so long, and I did pay them compliments. I mean, like I said, I was a kid from a small farm town. I found myself working in Washington, D.C. I'm now doing events with the leader of the free world. And then to find out how they really are behind the scenes, how they, I mean, I just happened to, you know, end up working for the Clintons. But, you know, it could have been, you know, the Obamas or somebody else down the road. But you just see the total transparency of this is not the complete picture. And I feel like the American people need to know who she really is, the president really is. If we get her back in office, we are dealing with a whole nother Obama term. We're dealing with a whole nother Bill Clinton scenario. She's going to have him doing just as much as he was before. And she's failed at so many things, and I've seen that with my own eyes. I mean, back when she was doing the access to health care. And, you know, that just, you know, it is what it is. And
well,
we as people need to stop. I mean, we're going to see our country fall.
Well, see, that's their philosophy, though. They want
at that point right now.
I agree. They want each new initiative to fail to then give them more power because they never get held accountable. See, the WikiLeaks show, she wants it all to fail, brother. How diabolical is that?
No, well, that's why. I mean, it's unbelievable, and that stuff is all true. I mean, it's not like they sat there and wrote it. And I mean,
no, they're confirming the FBI, the new FBI leak, the new FBI release shows that it's all confirmed. Trying to bribe the FBI, getting orders from some weird shadow government. I mean, God help us. That's why they picked her, though, because she's such a monster. She enjoys hurting little people. She wants to make us poor.
Absolutely. And you can't tell me that Bill Clinton arriving on the tarmac when the Attorney General's sitting there, that was just a coincidence.
Well, those of us that like to serve people and like hospitality and enjoy happiness, some of the best folks are chefs and cooks because they enjoy life. And I love to cook food for my family. I'm not a great chef like you, but I cook a pretty damn good steak or pretty much a lot of other stuff. And my dad, you know, grandma's taught me how. But the point is, we enjoy doing that for people. These folks like this don't. They don't want to build a good economy. They don't. They get off on they're the boss, they're in charge, and you ain't got nothing.
And they actually refer to us people as the small people.
Oh, you heard that?
No, absolutely. And not just from the Clintons. I mean, when I worked for the Kennedys, I mean, they all refer to us as the small people.
Yeah, well, America was about small people.
The sense of self-entitlement is beyond.
Good God. How would they describe that? Please tell us.
Well, I think it would be just, you know, it's just in reference to in their demeanor talk about us, you know, the small people. I mean, I've heard that referred to by, you know, handlers and aides over the past. You know, what about, you know, to get somebody to do this or whatever? It's so far above the way you treat.
It's in the new WikiLeaks.
People.
They say we got to keep the general public, the small people, dumb. Wow, we appreciate your courage, Tracy Martin. Please come back on the Nightly News or for a longer interview. We want to support you and pray for you and hold you up in prayer. God bless you, sir.
Thank you, Alan. Have a good day.
Guy's risking his life. It's quite a time to be alive right now, ladies and gentlemen. Trump is ahead in internal polls, 5 to 15 points. Of course, you heard Nick confirm that a few days ago. I'm just not going to give out any inside baseball. But they know election fraud's coming because they've seen Bloomberg, Reuters, all the major polling, Politico, having Hillary 5-10 points ahead by sampling, in some cases, more, generally right below, double Democrats than they sample Republicans. I mean, this is a time to remember. This is unbelievable. We've had Michael Savage on. We've had Tracy Martin on. He's only done one other interview. And that's because his friend talked him into going on the air. That is the on-record executive sesh on the travel details for years for the Clintons, but back to Ronald Reagan, you name it. Putting his whole big executive business on the line to tell the truth because he said they called people little people. They called Hispanics names. He heard them call black people the N-word. You tell that N-word, get me this dessert right now. And then she'd write notes way more than what she heard it. Like, you know, lawyers do that. You don't talk in the courtroom. She's always writing notes. Kill that piece of crap. Give me this. I mean, this is a monster. The Clintons were put in power in Arkansas by the KKK, people. Do you know who was running things in the 70s and 80s in Arkansas, in East Texas, in Louisiana, Mississippi? The KKK. And it's come out, folks. I mean, it's just, it makes my head spin. By the way, people that watch TV think the KKK is running around in white outfits going for black people. They do that. They're mainly about running banks and running white farmers out and, you know, taking people's property. It's just a gang of scum. Now, we're going to go to our guest here, and we've got a big Haiti report with Joe Biggs and others coming in here at the bottom of the hour that is just so incredible that I don't even know words to describe it. We have people dying on tape. We're in there with aid missions coming in. The UN won't fly people out that are dying to Port-au-Prince, just 30 minutes away. No one ever got any Clinton aid. You say Clinton there, it's like you said Satan. Everybody flips out. The big report's coming tomorrow, but Gary Haben, the billionaire philanthropist, is going to be joining us via from I think it's Port-au-Prince via Skype. We'll see if it's working. That's all coming up. We're going to talk to Joel Gilbert here briefly. He was instrumental in helping do some of the research and background work and in helping get Danny Williams, video out. So that's very, very exciting to have that going on. Just briefly, I skipped a break last hour. I didn't plug once. And they're in there telling me, Alex, we're not going to have money to pay the bills if you don't sell stuff. We're self-supported. We sell the best seeds, the best products, the best shortwave radios, the best storable foods, the best nutraceuticals out there, the best films, you name it. And we've got free shipping running for the big final showdown tomorrow, right through tomorrow. It's going to end on Thursday. Store-wide at InfoWarsStore.com. And we have 25% off our nootropic, Brain Force. $22, folks. The leading competitors with similar formulas are $50, $60. We sell it for $30-something. It's a great deal. $22.46. We just put in the computer, 25% off is what it comes up with. We have all these weird numbers. Huge reviews all over the place. Amazing, healthy way to boost your cognitive ability. It's amazing what it does. InfoWarsLife.com. Go read the reviews. They're so crazy that I'm not even going to read them on air. I mean, I guess I can read a few. Here's one Dutch from Los Angeles. Would recommend this especially to my fellow truck drivers who spend time mostly on the road. Highly recommend this to my family and friends. 25% off right now and free shipping. Brain Force allows me to get through my busy work days while staying energized and maintaining mental energy to function better than I ever have. Also helps me stay awake through the nights. I had the folks not even give us the incredible reviews about what salesmen are doing on it and the rest of it, but that's Ricky B. in Rochester, Minnesota. So take advantage. The last run of the Hillary for Prison shirt is out right now. It's still a bestseller, but we're just saying what comes and goes. That's it. We coined the term, and it's $9.95. That's at cost, free shipping. We also have the limited edition Don't Tread on Me, Lock Her Up shirt. Only one printing of that. That's almost sold out. Made in America, $22. We make like $12 on it. We need the money to fund the operation. Please take advantage of it. And free shipping, store-wide, InfoWarsStore.com, or call toll-free 888-253-3139. But if it's water filtration systems, whether it's reverse osmosis or gravity fed, we go out and find the very best out there, highest rated, lowest price, buy them in bulk, sell it at prices lower than Amazon in many cases. But sometimes Amazon does better than us. Shop with us because we will viciously fight for freedom. We will viciously affect change. We will attack the globalists. I mean, let me tell you something. You couldn't drag me off this fight. I'm like a pit bull they breed for attacking wild hogs or something. Please don't tell me I'm a hero. I was born for this. Whatever happens, I'm in the fight. I love it. This is the best thing of my life. So bottom line, we just need the support. We need the mid-air refueling, get products you need to fund this operation. And I absolutely pledge to you, I will tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. I will assault the enemy 18 hours a day. I will pray before I go to bed every night that I be lifted up as a weapon against the enemy. Now, Joel Gilbert's our guest. We really appreciate the work he's doing. He, of course, Dreams of My Real Father, and the Utopia, Dystopia film about communism. Boy, all that's coming out. I want to get into what happened with Bill Clinton's, who I believe, illegitimate son. They're really trying to cover that up. But first, I want to talk to him about WikiLeaks. Does this not prove everything Joel Gilbert from joelgilbert.net has broken down? The shadow government running them, trying to bribe FBI agents, knowing they were destroying classified documents and hiding them. I mean, this is incredible. And to watch the media try to unify even more to prop her up, even if they steal the election or she gets in. These are political death blows, Joel Gilbert. I mean, no wonder they say they openly want to shut down the alt-right and demonize me by name, because they are just floundering, in my view. What do you think?
I think, look, they're clearly floundering. They clearly put together this assault on Donald Trump week by week, knowing that they could probably get their media minions to only focus on Trump and give them an excuse to completely ignore these bombshell revelations. The biggest one, which I think really tells the whole story, is that Hillary explicitly said that there's a public policy for everything and a private policy for everything. And nothing more is illustrated even greater than in the story of Danny Williams, because she speaks affectionately for Black Lives Matter, but that's her public life. In her private life, she banished her husband's child, her own stepson, from her family. And so we know that when Hillary says Black Lives Matter, and she feels for them, she's really thinking black votes matter. And like everything else...
Well, exactly. You said this 5-6 years ago, that she's a sociopath, only goes off polls. Then who is she? Because it's almost like she has multiple personalities. You've talked to a lot of experts. You've been on the trail, Joel Gilbert. Who is she really? What is her psychological profile?
Her psychological profile is that she really is a Chicago radical, just like Barack Obama. She had a Bill Ayers figure in her life, which was Carl Oglesby, the head of the SDS. She read his book, Containment and Change. And
she was pen pals with Saul Alinsky.
Not only pen pals, she met Saul Alinsky. He offered her a job. She said that rather than work for him on the outside, she wants to affect change from the inside. Her thesis of her college thesis was about Saul Alinsky.
While becoming a filthy rich pig that steals money from Haitian children.
Right, there can only be one fight. So she is at her core a 60s radical. She also had a Reverend Wright in her life. She had a radical minister named Don Jones, her Methodist youth minister, that introduced her to Alinsky. So she has a similar background in terms of radical theologian, radical communist, SDS ideologue, way back, just like Obama had his Bill Ayers.
I totally agree. So 20 days out, what do you expect him to do next? This huge, elaborate attack. Most of the women, it's turned out, were hitting on him, asking him to come visit him in emails even this year. It's all deteriorating. They contacted over 1,000 women, found 9 of them to say he touched their butt or touched their knee or whatever, shook their hand. Okay, he's evil. What comes next?
Hillary's entire campaign is simply, I think, to drug her up, to get her physically across the finish line, and simply focus on that Donald Trump is a creepy guy. She has no justification.
Oh, the way he walks around on the stage menacing her, the poor baby.
There's no policy, there's no justification to have Hillary Clinton back in the White House. She has no policy of Barack Obama that she participated in that was successful. Everything was a dismal failure. All she can do is try to keep power in the Democrat Party and try to impose this era, this coming era of liberal fascism, which I have no doubt she will implement through radical Supreme Court justices who will defy the constitutional law and impose and create their own laws, eliminating.
So when Trump says this is make it or break at the end of America if he doesn't get in, I mean, barring physical resistance, this is probably it.
I believe this is it, because once she changes the Supreme Court justice to radical leftist nominees, once she adds a 7th commissioner to the FEC to break the ties, all of those policies we've seen Obama doing behind the scenes will just come out.
That's right. Let's be clear. The Federal Election Commission and the FCC, they're deadlocked, are on record that if they get a majority, they're going to ban free speech. They admit it.
Oh, you remember my case. They voted 3-3. It cut down a complaint to investigate me for making the film about Obama's.
Yeah, that's how real this is they're trying to shut you up, a filmmaker. They've arrested Dinesh D'Souza. Good God.
Yeah, 3-3. Now, how could it be 3-3? It should be 6-0, that they should not be investigating a filmmaker for making a film about Obama's background. I presented a mountain of evidence that his real father was the Soviet agent, Frank Marshall Davis, who raised and radicalized him in his youth. Who
he wrote about in his own book, spending summers with Frank, his grandfather's best friend. It's hiding in plain view.
Well, it wasn't just summers. It was every day he went to Frank's house. Frank radicalized him into this anti-American, anti-white.
How do they square this, though, that they make hundreds of millions of dollars in office? They live the most lavish lifestyle of kings. They don't want poor people to have money, but then they prance around saying they're communist.
Well, that is the fraud, the total fraud of socialism and communism, that what we have is a new class of elites. They eliminate the entrepreneurial class, the so-called bourgeois. They want to destroy the drug companies, Wall Street, the banks, all the businesses. The business of America is business, but they want to destroy business and consolidate wealth and power in their own hands, leaving a large middle class to be eliminated. So we only have a lower class. Socialist economies don't have a middle class. They have an upper class elite, and they have the poor people. And these are the upper class elites that are accumulating the wealth by destroying the people that make.
And by the way, history with hundreds of countries is incontrovertible that socialism and communism creates nightmare hells. Even small free market experiments that never even get 10% there create fabulous development, fabulous innovation, fabulous civilization.
progressives murdered 150 million of their own people during peacetime, as we saw in my film, There's No Place Like Utopia, because they wouldn't fit into the perfect society, the perfect world. They didn't agree that they would conform. In Cambodia, they murdered anybody that had glasses, because if you had glasses, you could read, and they wanted to recreate humanity.
Oh, I got the Zeitgeist movement, admittedly supported by the UN and the New York Times. Tell me on air, you will be re-educated if you don't accept a computer deciding what job you have or where you live. And I go, that's total tyranny. And they just arrogantly go, we're going to run your life, we're liberal. Well, no, that's not liberal. That's called total totalitarianism, dumbass.
I call it liberal fascism. If you don't conform, this is what happened throughout history. You get sent to the gulag, you get sent for re-education, or you're simply eliminated. This is a totalitarian, depressing lifestyle to have a group of elites with all the wealth. The elites are, in socialism and communism, are state bureaucrats who don't produce anything. Therefore, you have a society that becomes impoverished. Today we have, with a free market system, we have the entrepreneur class creating jobs and creating wealth and everybody moving up. Unfortunately, it seems that younger people, millennials, don't know these lessons of communism and socialism.
Oh, no, they say to me, oh, my God, England and Canada have such great health care. Oh, is that why it's rated horrible? People come here, even though ours is all corrupt and bad now? I mean, you know, they just have no, they think North Korea is great. I mean, it's crazy.
We've lost this lesson in history. In the 60s, they mobilized all of Hollywood. The government would educate people, put out films, and show that, look, if you look at Mao Zedong, Stalin, all these countries, Cuba, it's political repression and poverty and death. And we have not had that type of education, so you have people going to Bernie Sanders rallies. Sanders is just an old school communist, and they're clapping for everything he says. We're going to go after Wall Street. We're going to destroy the banks. We're going to break up the pharmaceutical companies. Well, if you break up business, you end up being Venezuela, or you end up being communist Russia. Where
Sure, but let's add the final piece. If you read Carol Quigley's book or others, they admit this. There's an ultra-rich elite that want to get rid of the middle class to create a consolidation. So there's ultra corporations that are working with the socialists and communists to cut out the middleman and then cut out competition. And then they plan to double-cross the communists and set up a technocracy fascism. But I agree with you when you've said the communists plan to double-cross the corporations and create a new dark age. So I don't know what's worse, a technocracy fascism or a dark age. I mean, it's just crazy.
We just need to stick with our constitutional republic.
Exactly.
And not follow these people that have a passion for destruction.
Well, how is it not liberal to have true diversity of business and life and ideas and not have thought control? That's real liberalism.
Look, in their mind, we've talked about this before, they look at America differently than conservatives. We look at the world and we say America is the greatest democratic constitutional republic in the history of mankind. The left looks at America and compares it to a perfect utopia and says it doesn't measure up. Therefore, we have to destroy it so we can rebuild the perfect world. And that is the fallacy of progressivism, and that's why it caused so much...
And all they ever build is nightmare hills that kill everybody. So, I've been asking some of the questions. We got 6 minutes left. Joel Gilbert, getting into the son of Bill Clinton. Clearly, he's the son of Bill Clinton. The whole background on that. You've done comparisons on their faces and photos. We can show some of that writing for WorldNet Daily. You helped put together the first film with that. I know, free of charge. We appreciate you being so dedicated to this out in L.A. when he flew out there. Let's spend 5 minutes on Danny Williams.
Yeah, I've been following this for 10, 12 years and always been fascinated by it. And there's just no question in my mind that, Danny, is the son of Bill Clinton. There's not anybody in the world that looks like him, whose mother has been telling him since he was 5 years old that Bill was his father and who lives in Little Rock.
He looks a lot like skull shapes, very similar.
Well, look at the teeth. The teeth are a match. I've had dentists tell me, like with Frank Marshall Davis and Barack Obama, exact teeth match.
No, it is, especially the top teeth, yeah.
Yeah, the top teeth, ears, nose. I mean, it reminds me of the interview I did with Malik Obama, for example.
He's got hazel eyes. If you cross blue with brown, that's what you get.
It's really a complete match. And he has actually the thing he inherited from his dad is he does have this intangible likability factor. He really does have a
very
great personality. He's a great kid. And he talks about how when he was 5 years old, his aunt took him, they were on some kind of welfare. They needed some child support. They went to the governor's mansion. His aunt snuck in the gate when the gates opened, knocked on the door, asked for Hillary, and they slammed the door in her face. and they ran off, jumped over a fence, and were later paid some hush money, $700 a month, along with some Christmas presents. It's a very sad story, and I think anybody in urban America that's thinking of voting for Hillary really should look at this, because Danny talks about how it's the same as back in slave times when a slave owner would have a child with a slave, and the wife of the plantation owner would run him off the plantation and banishes the child. And that's essentially what happened to Danny. He was in foster homes when his father was president of the United States. He was in foster homes. He said going to bed hungry at night. Can you imagine that? I can't even imagine that.
It's incredible. I had Tracy Martin, the admitted chef of the Clintons, their travel chef for 5 of the 8 years or whatever. He worked for the Bushes as well. And he was just saying it was constant racial notes. She would write notes, get this N-word to get me some food, or she would verbally say it, attacking Hispanics. And everybody I know about the Clintons say they're just flaming racist, or just whatever is nasty to say. I think this is a pretty big story as well.
I think it's huge. Look, the Democrats...
Not Bill, I want to be clear. It's Hillary that says the race stuff.
Well, let's talk about public and private. Democrats opposed the civil rights movement. They broke up black families with the welfare system. They forced them into terrible schools. They turned urban America into drug culture, single mothers, violent neighborhoods. And they keep going back asking for their votes. On a personal level, you can see what they do to their own family. Malik Obama was discarded. All the Kenyan Obamas, I did an interview with him, they were discarded by Barack Obama because they no longer needed them. Danny Williams was, I think, discarded and denied by the Clintons because they don't need him. And I think it's a very sad story, and just incredible that Hillary Clinton essentially banished him from their lives, when in fact he's a great kid and they do good to embrace him. So I hope they will.
I interviewed his aunt like 19 years ago. I mean, this is going on. I talked to the state police that were just appalled by it all. In closing, we got about 2.5 minutes, Joel Gilbert. JoelGilbert.net, folks want to find his films. We sell them as well at InfoWarsStore.com. But regardless, just get them out to people that aren't awake. What do you in your gut think they're going to pull the next 20 days? Where do you think all this is going?
I think they're going to try to keep hammering, keep the focus on Donald's alleged indiscretions. That is he a creepy guy or is he not? He's racist. He talks poorly about African Americans. All these exaggerations and inferences that they make from anything he ever did or said 10, 20, 30 years ago, it's all coordinated with the media. And I think I'm hoping and thinking that people are going to be immune to it at some point. They're going to be sick of it, because this reminds us of what we went through with the Clintons, 20 years ago, where there was this constant Clinton pushing these narratives that were twisted and lies and half-truths. And I think it's actually reminding people of how annoying and disgusting the Clinton presidency was.
Exactly. If we take Billy Bush, he now admits that was like an hour-long conversation, and then he was goading him. Clearly they were setting Trump up, and it's all edited. I mean, I could record you for an hour and ask you questions on a road trip. You might say something. I mean, now that I think about these tapes, I catch myself when I'm out hiking with buddies or whatever. I'm not even really a nasty guy. I'm not really, what I see is kind of, shocking. But I catch myself, saying some things I wouldn't want out there. And it's like, my God, this is the type of stuff that's going on. I mean, this woman's running ISIS. This woman is doing all this horrible stuff, and we're obsessed over some 11-year-old tape.
Well, I think that's the strategy, is to only focus on Trump, because there's no justification for electing Hillary to city council, let alone president of the United States. She does not qualify for security clearance. Everything she's touched turned into a disaster.
And now we know she tried to bribe the FBI. Joel Gilbert, thank you. Powerful information. Great job on the whole situation with Danny Williams. We're going to come back. We're going to get Joe Biggs and Michael Zimmerman here. They went to Haiti for a week with Mr. Haven, and this is so bombshell, I don't even know how to handle it. I mean, this should destroy the Clintons. This is incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Danny Williams, now of Hot Springs, Arkansas, grew up in Little Rock there at the Capitol, where his mother reportedly met the governor, Bill Clinton, is here with us. I remember interviewing your aunt back in the late 1990s, church lady, many years, hard worker, great record. You yourself got 3 children, no record, hardworking guy. I think your story is very, very credible. We're going to walk through it and talk about it today, but thanks for coming to Austin, Texas, sir. Nice to have him here. We'll turn his mic on for folks. Danny, where to begin here? I mean, let's talk about you personally, where you're from, where you grew up, and then we'll start talking about the first time you ever heard from your mother that a certain person was your father.
Right. My name is Danny Williams. I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm at age 30 right now. And all my life I've been told that Bill Clinton was my father by my mom, my aunt, and other relatives that grew up with me.
Continue. I know you haven't been on TV before. You're live right now. Please keep going.
But anyway, yes, I want to know the truth about Bill Clinton being my father. And that's all I ask is the truth.
Do you think Bill Clinton's your father?
Yes, sir.
Instead of just going through your whole history, and we're going to do it and talk about it and play clips of Clinton being asked about you by the press, and he won't respond. We're teleprompter free here. Out of the gates, Bill Clinton will be watching this. This is undoubted. Right. Obama responded to us yesterday, Hillary a few weeks ago. They watch every day. This shows in thousands of newspapers a day, all over every cable channel.
Yes, sir.
We didn't do some pre-interview here. You just flew in at like 11 o'clock today. You just got here about an hour ago.
Right.
Looking at that camera right there, sir, camera 4. Bill Clinton, William Jefferson Clinton will either be watching this live or he'll watch it later. What do you want to say to Bill Clinton? Camera 4.
I'd just like to ask and say to Bill Clinton that I want to meet you. I want to shake your hand. I want my kids to know their grandfathers. And I like to just, I like to just meet them, get to know them, and I never had a father in my life, so, it's hard. It's difficult in explaining it,
It's okay, go with it. It's all right. I've talked to you in private. I understand coming from the middle of Arkansas to now being with the top link on Drudge, and you see yourself right there and all over the world. But just tell it like it is. You believe Bill Clinton's your father. Your mother always told you that. He sent you money, all the rest of it.
Right.
He won't respond to it. So Bill Clinton and Hillary are watching right now.
Right.
Talk about an epic story. The video's on your Facebook. It's on InfoWars. Trying to go over the fence at the governor's mansion. You wanted to meet your daddy. You're meeting him right now digitally.
Right.
Right there, my friend. What do you want to say?
I like to say, my name is Danny Williams. I like to just say, I want to be able to experience that having a father in your life, you know what I'm saying? And now I got kids of my own. I want my kids to know their grandfather. They ask me all the time, who's your dad, So, it's my chance now and get my story out and letting the world know who I am and who's my father and, the truth about everything.
Well, the Daily Mail has the headline, Bill Clinton's grandkids, will he look into meeting with them? We'll go back to that in a moment, but just starting at the beginning.
Okay.
Break down how you grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas. You're now in Hot Springs. What it was like and when you first began to hear this.
Okay. Well, growing up in Arkansas, it was like everybody knew. Everybody, they'd say, that's Bill Clinton's son. And everywhere I go, So, growing up, it was rough growing up. We barely was making it. We was broke. My aunt, she worked 2 jobs trying to raise us, me and my little brothers and sisters. Everybody in Arkansas at the time I was coming up knew about me being his son, preachers and all. So I just want to be able to just, have this chance and get myself out and explaining who I am and why am I facing the world today to reach my father.
I noticed in the video interview we did that we aired, you talked about wanting to meet him because you heard he was sick, in your own words.
Right. I heard he has Perkins, if I'm not mistaken, heart problems, and they, people ain't living long these days, so ain't no telling when he may pass, So now it's, now it's my chance to be able to get my story out and get it heard to meet my father before that happened, before something tragic happened to him.
Well, we can go to Joel Gilbert's website or WorldNet Daily and show some of the articles while you're speaking.
Right.
You next to Bill Clinton for TV viewers watching, how much you look like him. But I remember back at the time that when I first had your aunt on, it's got to be 20 years ago almost, 19 years ago, that this is what I was getting from the state police and others. So let's get into what you talk about in the video. When you first started hearing this, before you heard about it, your mother tried to get you into scene with the governor's mansion. Then later you try to get on the property when you're older. Let's go through this, Danny.
Okay, well, it was my aunt, actually. My mom had lost custody of us. My aunt had got
Sure,
custody.
you're in.
Yeah, right. My aunt had got custody of her, my aunt Lucille. So one day she was like, I want, she took me down to the governor's mansion. And she was like, we're going to let him know that you're his son. So we went down there, and she had to sneak through the gates. And she went up to the door, and the butler answered the door. And she asked for Hillary. And the door was slammed in her face, and we was told to get off the property. So she took off running, snatching me by one arm, and all I can remember was my arm hurting, and she snatching me to jump over the fence. And she asked me all the time, do you remember me taking you to the governor's mansion? I said, yeah, I remember. I remember you snatching my arm and taking off running. So, it's never went away. I mean, he have delivered Christmas gifts to my home by Arkansas State Troopers. He have paid my mom under the table. Up until the time he made president in 1993, he stopped doing anything for us. So I believe in my heart that he tried to be in my life.
Well, this is a narrative that comes out from everybody that Hillary runs the show. Hillary's the boss.
Right.
She actually manages him and uses his issues as a control mechanism. From your research, who is it that kept you away from the man you believe to be your father?
Correct. I think Hillary is the one that kept me away. I mean, as a married couple, your decisions are one. So I'm sure she know of me, and I'm sure she had parts in with all the publicity, all the stories in the press that, falsely reports we have taken the DNA, all of that is false, So, I really do think she have played a part in, and as they call, banishing me,
Now, I know it's hard for you to talk about, but you've discussed mentally, psychologically, what this has done to you. I mean, go over the years when you first started. How old were you when you first started learning about this? And then what did it do over the years?
Okay, over the years. When I first started learning, I was probably about 8 or 9. I was in school, and, my teachers, they would look at me, and they'd be whispering, it's Bill Clinton's son. His mother, the one that claims she had the baby by Bill Clinton. And, it's just difficult, growing up, house to house, not stable. It became difficult my whole life. So, I just thought about it, I'm like, there's something true to it that after all these years, they still put out false reports. 1999, 2000, the false DNA, all these articles that they put out that's false about me. But the article that my mother gave in 93, it's somebody bought rightful ownership to it, and it make you think. So 2 years almost, 2 years ago, 2 years and a half ago, I started my Facebook page campaigning for me and Bill Clinton being my father. I wanted to know, and I've always wanted to know. I just never got any help. I reached out to lawyers and investigators. They would not look into my case, no one. So I started campaigning my own Facebook page and saying Bill Clinton my father, and I'm trying to get my story out.
Well, keep rolling. I love the fact now that you're relaxed. I can tell you're nervous. Who wouldn't be?
Right.
The head of CNN, Jeff Zucker, and it's all come out in WikiLeaks too. They order him. Don't talk about Bill Clinton's sex crimes.
Right.
Don't talk about Hillary's health. Don't talk about illegitimate children. Don't talk about it. He, quote, thinks it's a ridiculous hoax. Even though we went and looked at the Star, they never did the DNA test.
Yes, sir.
They did a, quote, test that wasn't even a DNA test. So
Correct.
That's how they do it. That's how they get away with it.
Correct.
And cover it. But, I mean, regardless, Bill Clinton's known for all of this. What do you just think about the general sense of what's happening in the country today?
I mean, I think a lot about it. Actually, I think, as far as she stand up and saying, well, the kid, kids we're going to make sure kids have the rightful, taking care of them and rightful schools, and all this. I actually think that they are lies. And I think she's just using it to be in office.
And to be clear today, when I went there about an hour before he went on air, I said, listen, we've never really talked. We've talked over the phone a couple times. My crew has. You just flew in today. You've been talking to Biggs and stuff. I said, will you just please write notes on the questions you want me to ask? And you wrote these up. These are your thoughts.
Yes, sir.
These are your questions. One thing that got brought up is Bill Clinton a couple weeks ago got asked about his son, reported son, Danny Williams, by a YouTuber called Charlie in the Box. I want to skip this network break.
Right.
This is so important. I want to play this since you mentioned this and just, again, go back to if you were really in the room with Bill Clinton, because you are in the room with him. He will watch this undoubtedly.
Yes, sir.
I mean, spill it out there because you need to talk directly to him because I've talked to the Arkansas State Police back when I was being given these tips. Mm-hmm. Believe me, they didn't send people down here to get me fired and get my ass beaten.
Right.
Because you weren't his, weren't his illegitimate son. They're concerned about this. I want to talk about your memories with Mama and the money and the presents, and which humanizes Bill.
Right.
And we're not just trying to demonize Hillary. She was the one even 20 years ago, before I knew she'd run for president, they were saying was shut this down. So I want to talk about that with Danny Williams, the reported son of Bill Clinton. But let's go ahead and play this clip here of the protester asking Bill Clinton about, well, not even a protester. He's there just at the gate as Obama comes by, he was shaking hands with the Secret Service, saying, what about Danny Williams? Here it is.
Mr. Clinton, would you like to make a comment to Danny Williams?
Mr. Clinton.
Can you make a comment about Trump saying about rape allegations?
Hey, I don't want to hear any of that. Knock it off.
Can we get any comment about anything like that, please?
Stop. Hey, this is a monumental event for us. We don't want to hear it.
Well, I know, but we got a lot of questions that aren't being answered from the American people.
I mean, they acted like, Danny, they knew what was going on. Bill looked like, have a nice day when he looks at that camera. I don't want to dehumanize him because I know he's got a lot of problems, but he did deliver money to you for how many years? I mean, how many?
All the way up until 93, he made presidency. My mom received $700 and $100 bills in her mailbox every month, and the Christmas presents on Christmas, driven by state trooper cars, dropping them off. So I believe in my heart he knows I'm his son, and I know I know I'm his son because I see it through the features of me, the facial features, the chin, the nose, the ears.
I mean, you do look a lot like
that. Right. So, it's not that. I know what my dad looks like. He looks like me a lot. Exactly. So, I mean, all I want is the truth out. That's all I'm reaching for, the truth. This not no political scandal. I mean, I'm just here for the truth.
I mean, here it is right here. Now, I don't know what's going on. I mean, we flew you in. I'm busy. You're busy. I'm out micromanaging stuff.
Yes, sir.
All of a sudden, I guess during the break, last hour and a half you were here, you did an interview with the crew, and they transcribed it. Yes, Bill Clinton's son tells Hillary, step aside. This just went up on Infowars.com. Did you write this before you got here or just today? Because I'll be honest, they just walked in.
I wrote that before I got here, and I'm asking her to step aside. All I want is a sample of his DNA to prove who I am, and my story is true today.
We'll put that up on screen. Okay, well, I mean, I'm telling you, folks, he's running the show here today, Danny. And again, why did you choose us to bring this out? Because
I choose y'all. I choose y'all for one. I need the world to know. And I'm trying to get as many as people I can to let me speak about on the truth of my story and why am I doing this today. I mean, I've been trying all my life to get this out.
That's right. The media spins it like you just popped up now.
Right, no.
I was interviewing your aunt 20 years ago.
No. It's been articles since 93, 99, 98, 95 when he ran for a second term. So, I mean, those articles when I was a kid. And now that I'm grown, And
let's be clear, your mother said he was the only white man she was with.
Right, correct. My mother explains to me all the time, her story never changed. It's always consisted the same story.
How did it start? You're 8 years old. What does Mama tell you?
My mama told me that she dated him. And, she dated guys for money, to afford to take care of us. So at the time, my mother had 2 older sons besides me. So she tell me, how He's pick her up. You know, she destroyed his mother's house. You know, everything she destroys in '93.
And I've seen photos of your mother when she was young. Very beautiful.
Right, very beautiful. She's never been always, you know, as people think she is. Oh, she's a drug addict. She's this. She's that. No, she always done what the best she could to take care of her.
She's been down a long road.
Right. And right now she's at this point in her life right now, she's still alive, and she's driven by guilt on how we was brought up and what she could have done better. And, you know, and I feel that she's afraid to speak out public about this situation.
And tell her why. I mean, tell us why. We know what Hillary did. Tell us.
I mean, they try to hush her up. My mom been pushed out a 2-story window. She got metal plates in her foot.
By the way, nobody's heard this, but there's been threats. That's why everybody's freaked. Go ahead and tell people
right,
what happened.
I get threats today on Facebook. They tell me, oh, that Clinton.
Tell people what happened to your mother. Tell them what the police did. Tell them what the state police did. They're famous for breaking people's arms and legs.
Right.
I mean, Jennifer Flowers.
I was told that she was pushed out a 2-story window, and this was told by my mom. She got a metal plate from her bottom of her toes up to her ankle. And I was told that, you know, people was trying to kill her because of her claim of her having a son by Bill Clinton.
Yeah, bottom line, we're all risking our lives here. So please continue. Talk to Bill. I mean, this is what she gets. I mean, tell him.
Right. And today, Bill, all I want to do is to get the truth out behind who I am and that I am your son. And I would like for my kids, your grandkids, to meet you. I mean, it's more I can say right now. I mean, I'm really emotional and
say it. It's all right. I know you broke down crying today before earlier, and I know you've thought about suicide. Tell people, to be honest, we're here.
I have thought about suicide before because, I mean, you go through this, you know, people don't believe you, you know. You go through this, you're trying to reach your story out, and people are like, oh, he's just a scam. He's this, he helping Trump. Trump never paid. I don't work for Trump. I work for myself. I done this 2 years ago before she even started running. She supposed to run in 2008 and made president.
I interviewed your aunt 19 years ago. Right. Has nothing to do with Trump.
Right. So, like I say, it's the truth on who I am and where I'm trying to go in my life. I know that with me getting my story out and helping my kids and I raised my kids and I helped raise my little sisters and brothers. I know that one day it is someone out there that might need my help and that'll go through the same thing I done went through in my life. So, no, it's a destiny for me.
No, it makes sense. And I know you've talked about this privately, but if he'd behind the scenes just help out and be with the kids and recognize you, it's like you want to meet your dad. And then you got grandkids. These grandkids, like, I mean, let me tell you, if I had black grandkids, I'd want to know them.
Right, correct.
I mean, I don't care what color they are. I love them.
I had my first child at 16. I dropped out of school in 11th grade, working full-time in a donut shop to raise my child and my little sisters and brothers. So, like I say, it's been hard and rough for me traveling this road, but I'll never give up and I will not give up until, you know, he step up and say, yes, I'm willing to give you a sample. I'm willing to put this behind us.
So Bill Clinton give the sample and prove it wrong with the third parties watching it.
Right.
He got into it, folks, but his mother got threatened by the state police and Hillary in person to put her in prison or kill her. Then she got thrown out a window a month later. And we've already been threatened over this interview today, just so you know. And when I had his aunt on, I got beat up a week later.
Powerful weapon deployed by the Clintons is the corporate media, the press. Let's be clear on one thing. The corporate media in our country is no longer involved in journalism. They're a political special interest, no different than any lobbyist or other financial entity with a total political agenda, and the agenda is not for you, it's for themselves. And their agenda is to elect crooked Hillary Clinton at any cost, at any price, no matter how many lives they destroy. For them, it's a war. And for them, nothing at all is out of bounds. This is a struggle for the survival of our nation. Believe me. And this will be our last chance to save it on November 8th. Remember that.
You know what's incredible about watching Trump's speeches unedited like I do on a routine basis? He gives 3 or 4 a day. He has such amazing stamina, so I don't catch more than maybe 1 a day. And maybe it's 8 o'clock at night. The kids have done their homework. They've taken showers. We've had dinner. And we don't watch a lot of TV. We watch movies a couple times a week or whatever. And I let them watch a few shows here and there when they've done their chores and done a good job and gotten straight A's. But we'll all just sit down, and my 8-year-old, my 12-year-old daughter, and my 14-year-old son, and I say, what do you want to watch? And they say, we want to go to the Donald Trump channel on YouTube. We want to watch his speech today. And we'll go there, and we'll oh, look, there's 5 speeches today. Which one would you like to watch? And we'll sit down, and we'll watch Donald Trump for 30 minutes or an hour. My children, they all teach you your kids don't want to listen to you. Your kids don't want to admire you. You study history. You're fighting evil, and you're in a tribal situation, and your kids understand it. All they want to do is do what you say. But they want to get our families destabilized from the beginning, all fighting with each other. Once they get the unnatural dynamic going, once they try to convince the man to act like a child, the woman to act like she's the boss, and get everything destabilized, once that starts, it's like a gyro wobbling. A gyro that's stable is going perfect. The gyro that's wobbling is out of control. And once kids get it that we're a family, we've got to stick together. We care about each other. And we only care about people that care about us and the people that are truthful and nice. And not that my kids are perfect. They're far from it. I've spoiled them at certain levels, but they win everything. I mean, it's amazing. He could do it at state level if he wanted to, but he didn't need to. But Rex is now a man. He hadn't been on the air in over a year. He's just been so busy, but he wants to be on air. He's on air soon, but he looks like he's about 16, 17. He's 14. Just turned 14. And he wins all the big speech debate deals. He wins all the big, you name it. And I'm not bragging about my kids. It's just that they're confident. They know what's going on in the world. They got a gleam in their eye. You look at the average kid, that gleam's been stolen from them. And I don't let my kids play video games, folks. I don't let them sit there with a smartphone all day and drool. I have phones I give to them when they're going somewhere. I want to know what they're at. It's like Big Brother. Well, government's going to watch you. I'm going to watch you too. Here, go with this. Are you going to do a sleepover? Boom, take this with you. But it's like a weapon. It's like an evil we roll out for limited uses, because we have ways of turning that towards good. At least we believe we do. None of us are perfect, but it's actually true. The country is done. The world's done. If the Brexit fails, if Europe continues the EU, and if Trump doesn't get in. If nationalism and patriotism doesn't win, because globalism is pure death. Globalism is world government. Globalism is scientific tyranny. It's the enemy. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all part of it. History is happening. Donald Trump has said the future of this country surviving is on the line. Not that he's perfect, he'll tell you that, but that the globalists are ending national sovereignty. World government has been announced, and thank God he came along who had the courage to magnify our work, Ron Paul's work, your work. It's now mainstream. And there are nationalist movements around the world moving forward. Notice since Nigel Farage of UKIP, we've been interviewing for 15 years, met with Trump and has actually been staying in the U.S. coaching him since the disastrous first debate. Trump's gotten 10 times more hardcore against the globalists and how it's about sovereignty and outside interests like Carlos Slim of Mexico, really an Arab, and the communist Chinese and the Islamicists, the Saudi Arabians controlling us. Notice Trump suddenly has become laser beam, very powerful. And that's because Farage is basically as informed as I am or even more. I've had dinner with him. I've known him for years. He was obviously on the show just a few weeks ago. We've done taped interviews with him. We're going to be talking to him again next week. Farage gets the whole deal, and he's the guy that helped begin the fall of the EU. Now, every EU country is demanding a referendum because no one was allowed to have a referendum. You're just suddenly under the EU because your politicians sell you out. Like Obama saying, we're under the TPP and the carbon tax, even if we don't ratify it. And the media's like, Obama's smart. He doesn't need Congress. He's just going to ratify it. Well, it's not smart to break the law. It's not smart to just have the bureaucracy do whatever it wants. But that's the big, widespread, 40,000, 35,000 foot view. It's important to zoom in and do snapshots of different individuals. Now, I'm not one to defend Bill Clinton, but I've been covering the Clintons for 21 years on air. I've been following them for 23 years since they became, husband, or since that election in 1992, 1993. And Hillary, to me, is the main villain. And I don't say that because that's a campaign strategy and, we'll talk about Bill, how bad he is, but how she's even worse. It's the truth. It's come out. She was president already, basically 8 years, co-president. She is the one that handled the, quote, bimbo eruptions. She is the one that was actually out doing the work and making the money and selling the country out, as we see in the Clinton Foundation. Bill's spending most of his time partying, and he does do some work, obviously. He's now a surrogate for her because she's obviously ill. But looking at what just comes out and all the horrible things Hillary does in these WikiLeaks and how she hates the American people is mind-boggling. But we had a lady on, one of the many folks that have been connected to the Clintons who've spoken out. But I wanted to have her here in person. I appreciate her coming down from Arkansas, a lovely lady, both in her looks but also in her demeanor, because she really, I thought, connected with myself and the audience. She's not somebody that says Bill Clinton raped her. She's somebody that dated Bill Clinton, but can speak to the whole situation really from a very honest perspective. But it's now come out, they're calling thousands of former contestants in all of his pageants going back 30 years, and they're coming out saying, I'm not going to lie for you, but they're really going after Trump right now and trying to project onto Trump who Bill Clinton was. So that even becomes a distraction onto who is Hillary. But the book, Dolly Kyle, a political memoir, Hillary, the Other Woman, forwarded by David P. Shippers, who's a great patriot. He was the head impeachment lawyer who exposed that actually Ken Starr was a Chinese agent and basically worked for the Chinese. He now officially works for them. So that's been proven. He was the chief investigative counsel for the Clinton impeachment. We should try to get folks from that whole impeachment back on. We have had the former congressman from Georgia obviously on. But if you're going to tell the whole story, there has to be absolute accountability. That's a Hillary Clinton quote. You're a great writer. Dolly promises me you will never censor anything you might want to say. Bill Clinton. Dolly is keeping her promise not to censor the truth. She is telling the whole truth here, but Hillary will not be happy about it. Hillary is the one being called to account for her lies, shady financial deals, racial discrimination. One chef got killed. The other chefs come out and said it's true. She would just scream N-word and flip out. Foul-mouthed flip-flopping, destruction of government records from Arkansas to Washington to Benghazi, lack of true feminist credentials, and her decades-long history of attacking many women who were used and abused by her husband, the co-president. I'm going to skip this network break because we have more time with Dolly Kyle here today. But thank you so much for coming into studio with us.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm happy to be here, Alex.
You're awesome. Wow. I've thrown a lot out there. You should probably just recap for folks that didn't hear you on a few months ago. Who you are, what happened, what unfolded. I ran into you in Cleveland at the RNC as well. And then just your perspective of somebody who's been there since, high school, or was even earlier with Bill Clinton.
Right. I met Billy when I was 11, and he was 12 going on 13. We met
middle school.
Yeah, well, I went to Catholic school, so we didn't break it up like that.
Sure.
8th grade. But then there were no other Catholic schools there. But Billy was, we were at Hot Springs High School together then. We graduated in 64. So we're in the same class. And yes, I am 2 years younger because I skipped 2 grades. So let's get the bimbo thing out of the way right now, okay? No bimbo here. I am a lawyer.
Well, you don't look like a bimbo, and you look amazing for your age. You look like you're about 45.
Oh, I'll take it. Thank you.
No, I'm joking. No.
Anyway, the important thing is really not so much the fact that I had an adult sexual relationship with Billy, but the fact that I have known him since I was 11 years old, and I am an intelligent, observant person, and I know what's been going on with the Clintons for all these years. So that's what's important. I did not want to write this book, Alex, but when I saw Hillary look into the camera and give that fake, sincere look that she has and say that women who've been raped and sexually assaulted should be believed, okay, that did it for me. I was ready to throw a shoe at the TV screen, but it was a new TV and it wouldn't have done me any good. So I wrote this book instead. And I just started it last year at the beginning.
And you're on record, in the yearbooks with Clinton. I mean, I don't think he's he's not denied that you were his girlfriend either.
Well, actually,
I know early on he didn't.
Early on, of course, he didn't. But then I was subpoenaed to testify in the Paula Jones case. And Billy's lawyers wanted me to not testify, not because we didn't have a relationship, but because our relationship was consensual. And the Jones case was about sexual harassment. So Billy's own lawyers prepared an affidavit for me to sign saying that our relationship was consensual, and they wanted me to file a motion in federal court not to testify because I didn't know about harassment, only about these consensual sex. The problem that Billy's lawyers did not know was that I was going to testify about Billy's sex addiction, which he had confessed to me. After, Alex, I found out I was a sex addict, and I got into therapy, and I told Billy about that as any friend would do.
Well, it must be a terrible thing to be a sex addict.
Well, actually, Alex, anyone who can have a drink at a cocktail party and enjoy it thinks that alcohol is fine. I have nothing against alcohol. But if you take one drink and you can't stop and you ruin your life, then it's not so great.
Absolutely. No. Well, I mean, what is a sex addict? Does somebody just can't control themselves?
There are a lot of aspects of it, just as there are different kinds of alcoholics. And I say alcoholics because more people have more experience with that, more knowledge of it. There's an alcoholic who gets up in the morning and has alcohol for breakfast. There's one who doesn't drink until 5 o'clock. There's one who binges on the weekends. There's one who binges every 6 months. There's all different sorts of alcoholism, but it does not excuse someone driving down the street drunk and killing a person.
No, I totally agree with you. So I mean, Bill Clinton, I mean, is an admitted like superstar sex addict. I mean, what's the word on it? It's reportedly up to 10 women a day when he was president.
Well, I don't know how many women per day. I do know that once a long time ago, we were discussing Wilt Chamberlain, who was the African-American basketball star who said he'd had sex with 20,000 women. And Billy and I were talking about that, and he said, whoa, that's 10 times more than I've had. And I think he said that with a bit of admiration and a little jealousy. But
no, he was saying he really had 2,000.
Yeah, and let's say he was exaggerating and it was only 1,000. How's that? Better? I don't think so.
I think any man or woman wants to find is the right person. And then there's one, and that's who you love.
Well, I don't think he knows about love.
Well, I can say personally, just raw sex for me is empty. I was a little bit promiscuous when I was younger. Nothing like Wilt Chamberlain or Bill Clinton. But it just was so empty. And for me, sex is really all about the relationship.
It should be. And what happened, and I'm not excusing it, but when I was a 16-year-old virgin, I was drugged and raped by one of Billy Clinton's friends. And a rape will change the trajectory of someone's life. Now, sometimes people don't admit it. They don't even admit to themselves what happened in the effect.
Does it tend to either person becomes very withdrawn and a spinster, or they become wild?
Well, that's what I talk about in my book, yes.
And again, that's Hillary, the other woman. So going back to where you started, that was intriguing. You were suddenly, when was it? You were spurred into action, spurred into the spotlight because of Hillary and the way she was behaving, claiming we should always stand up for women that are assaulted, but then going after Bill's victims.
Well, that was just at the beginning of 2016. I mean, I wrote 92,000 words in 65 days of writing. I did take off on Sundays. I also want to say to anyone who wants to start throwing stones right now that having the affair with Billy was wrong. I have repented. I have changed my life. And I had invited him to do that too, but that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, well, nobody's judging anybody for consensual sex, even though it can't get out of hand. And I think you're saying it was out of hand. But
absolutely.
Nobody's judging you for, give me a break. And anybody that tries that, especially the left, they're all, oh, sex, party, all this degenerate stuff. But then they act like, like these super obsessed, orthodox people when somebody conservative is involved in it. It seems like a very, very one-sided situation.
Well, it absolutely is. And here's the other thing. Forget the sexual relationship that I had with Billy, because my entire family has been friends with the Clinton's family for years. So I have an inside observation whether or not Billy and I ever had a relationship.
Has Bill Clinton got more evil or less evil over time?
Oh, my goodness. I didn't know anything was wrong with him until the night in 1974 when he introduced me to Hillary. And that was the night of the Democrat convention in Arkansas. And Hillary had come in from Washington, but I did not know that. Billy called and asked me to pick him up at the airport and wanted me to take him to the television headquarters and then to Fulbright headquarters. I said, sure. I mean, this was no big deal. We were adults. We were dating. I was divorced at that time. And so it was a totally open sexual relationship. He was also seeing Marla Kreider at the university. And
That's pretty wild, though. He's got you, a hot blonde going over to pick up his other girlfriend.
Well, yeah, but I didn't know that. And so he showed up at the airport.
So he's pretty bold.
He showed up at the airport with this dowdy-looking middle-aged woman and 3 guys in suits. And when they got closer, I realized that the dowdy middle-aged woman was just dowdy, but not middle-aged. And Billy said, Dolly, this is Hillary. Hillary,
did he tell you?
Dolly.
Well, did he tell you she was a CIA officer?
Oh, no, he didn't say anything about that. And one thing that you need to understand about Billy and all other addicts is that they will tell different people different things so that they never expose themselves, excuse the pun, completely to anyone, but they show different sides of themselves. For example, Billy showed his cocaine addiction to other people, but not to me, because he knew I was very definitely against drugs. So he wouldn't bring that up. He could show his sex addiction to me because that was okay, because I understood that.
So he was a chameleon.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we got to this part. It's the first time, 1974, Democrat convention happened in Arkansas. Here comes Hillary with the guys in suits with her. Tell us what happens next.
Well, my first thought was, oh dear. Remember the Seinfeld episode with the valet parker who smelled bad?
Yes.
Well, the first thing I thought was, oh my gosh, I have cloth seats in my car. And believe me, I was worried about my car. But I let this woman get in there anyway.
She smelled that bad?
She really did, Alex. She really, truly did. And I'm not just being tacky. Call me Margaret Mead in Samoa. I had never seen or smelled any woman like that, ever.
Did we talk before you got here today?
No, why?
When's the last time you talked to me?
Well, I guess on the radio show?
Yeah.
Months ago?
Because we fly by the seat of our pants. We're just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
It's a big national. Are you aware of the national controversy right now concerning me? I mean, the president responded to it.
No, I don't think so. What happened?
It was the top story 3 days ago. I just said from my Secret Service sources, and I also talked to people in protective detail from the Pentagon. They said, we don't know what's going on, but Hillary smells like a dead pig. And I talked about it, and they said I was completely insane. I said she smells like a demon, and that Obama stinks to high heaven.
Oh, I did hear that. Yes, about the demon thing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what a dead pig smells like.
I do. Well, the point is they smell like hell. But it's funny, but I don't know if you read about it in the book, but wow, that's crazy. I mean, you're bringing up how bad she smelled. I'm just telling you, people are telling me she smells. So what's she smell like?
I don't know. I'd never smelled anything like that before. I mean, her hair was dirty and greasy, and her dress was stained. So I assume it was something on her or in her, or she hadn't bathed.
Listen, I've had 2 Blackwater people, an Army colonel, Secret Service just say, we're scared of her. She blows up and screams half the time, fits, falls down angry, I mean, like a 2-year-old, and smells like, and I go, what? They go, it's the worst smell you've ever smelled. And it's just, you didn't even know this, and here you are bringing it up.
No, because it was one of the first things that I noticed. And who could not notice someone who smelled that bad, especially when they were going to get in my car with cloth seats?
That's what I tell listeners. I'm not going to make this up if we're not getting these sources.
Well, ask anyone in Arkansas who met her back then. Don't take my word for it.
This wasn't just normal hippie body odor.
I wouldn't think so.
All right, please continue. So what else? So she's a stinking creature arrives?
Well, the thing that really bothered me that night, and I started to talk about, you said, is Billy more evil now? You would have to know how important Senator Bill Fulbright was in Billy Clinton's life in order to get this at the level that I do. But when Billy Clinton went to Georgetown as a freshman in 1964, Bill Fulbright gave him a job. Fulbright had been, 64. He'd been 20 years in the Senate from Arkansas at that point. He gave Billy a job. He introduced him to everybody in Washington who was important. When Billy wanted to go to Oxford, Bill Fulbright helped him get the Rhodes Scholarship. He helped him to get into Yale. He helped him to get a job at the University of Arkansas teaching. And then when Billy, in 1974, was running for Congress from the 4th Congressional District in Northwest Arkansas.
Got a good memory. Huh?
It was Bill Fulbright who introduced him to the big money folks who would support that race. So I say all that to say this. The night of May 28th, 1974, the Democrat primary, I picked up Billy at the airport. We went to the TV station so Billy could do a statewide interview, which was the only place you could do that at the time, and maybe still now, I'm not sure. But anyway, while he was doing the interview, this strange smelling person who I really didn't believe was Hillary. I thought it was some kind of a joke because Billy had told me 2 years before that he was moving in with a law student named Hillary. She had a place to live, no big deal.
As a toad-looking creature with goggle glasses.
It was not pretty. It was not pretty.
Smells like a pit of hell, dirty hair.
All of that. Anyway.
Al Alinsky worshippers.
She was watching the election returns. And then when we left the TV station to go to Fulbright headquarters, Billy said, well, we need to go back to the airport. And I said, why? We're going to Fulbright headquarters. They're expecting you. I mean, you can't know this man Fulbright was like Billy's father figure he never had. No, not godfather, like a father he never had. It was critically important. And Billy said, well, we're not going. Didn't you see the election returns? Fulbright's losing. I said, yeah, sure he's losing. I mean, all the more reason to go over and support him. And Billy said, I don't want to be seen with a loser. And I felt like I'd been kicked in the stomach. And of course, I thought about, what about this?
That's what I always hear is they love to betray their friends now. At this point, it begins.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing. I was so upset about that. And of course, I didn't realize that Hillary was Hillary. I thought it was a joke. Really, I thought it was a joke. So I didn't realize Billy had kicked me in the gut.
Can we pull up a photo of Hillary in college or when she worked on the Nixon, anti-Nixon committee? I mean, let's pull her up. It looks like a joke. Please continue.
Okay. Anyway, I was devastated to realize that Billy would turn his back on Bill Fulbright like that. I really was. It made me physically sick. The same kind of physically sick I was when I saw Juanita Broderick's interview with Lisa Meyer on Dateline NBC and found out he was also a rapist. And
we have those clips when we come back. So to you, it's the dishonor of it.
Oh, my gosh. Yes.
Oh, it's funny. You know why Hillary had all those men in suits around her? She was...
Oh, no. These were Billy's friends. This was not the guys in suits then. These were just Billy's friends.
Point is, I mean, it's been declassified. She was like a CIA, his controller by the time they moved to England and all the rest of it later. And it's an amazing story. Her dad was like a mob boss in Chicago. We'll be back. I was just talking to Dolly Kyle, and she's nervous to say this, but I was looking at her because I know she went to law school, one of the top folks in her class. She's very successful economically. She didn't want to come out and write this book with WorldNet Daily Books. She did it because she felt compelled to do it. And she said, well, I mean, I was going from memory because I knew that from inside baseball, knowing the publishers, that you basically don't even want any money because they've asked me to publish a book with them, too. I've just been too busy, quite frankly. Great publishers over at WorldNet Daily Books. Get the book, Hillary, the Other Woman, Dolly Kyle. Total credibility. In fact, we should go through your curriculum vitae for new listeners. You're not doing this to sell a book. You're doing it to try to wake people up and expose what happens if we let these criminals continue to be in power. And you said, well, yes, I can't do it on your show because you're too big. Right. Because I've been telling people if you can't afford it, I'll send you a copy or send you a check to get it. And you've actually been doing that. But so don't do that here. You just want this to get out. You're not doing this for money. You're doing this for honor. So continue with your story. Continue breaking it down.
Well, I do want to say this. I did send my publisher a request this morning that see if we could lower the price of the Kindle version of this book, at least between now and the election. There are limitations what you can do with Amazon.
Oh, I know. We're selling our Hillary for President shirt at cost. I'm spending the backup money we have because any operation like this has to have backup money.
Yeah.
But I know it's so serious the last 6 months. I've hired more people, done more, just put every bit of sale on we can to try to defeat the globalists, because I can feel in my gut this is such a game changer. We're all in at this point.
That's absolutely true. And I do want to say one more thing about Amazon. My book went to #1 on Kindle. I took a screenshot that day. I was so tickled because Hamilton had been #1 and I was #2. Hamilton was so huge. And then one day, wow, I went to #1 and the next day it was #1. And so I was looking for my #1 sticker from Amazon because, you know, once you hit #1, then you can always say I was a #1 bestseller on Amazon, right? Forever. Except they wouldn't give me the #1 sticker. And I had my publisher call and say, what's the deal? And they said, well, there's more to getting a #1 sticker than being #1. And my publisher said, so what else is there? Well, that's proprietary information.
Which means we decide who gets that. It's
exactly.
But what's coming out this election is how rigged everything is. Everyone should get the book, Hillary, the Other Woman, available on Amazon, WorldNetDaily.com. I'm not being paid to promote any of this. I'm doing this to get the word out because this is a very credible lady exposing all of this. Now let's walk into where Bill Clinton goes from there, what's happening with these women and why you're speaking out. You mentioned Juanita Broderick, we've had on years ago, and then I guess about 6 months ago. Here's the first clip. Juanita Broderick supports Bill Clinton rape protest. This is a national movement we launched. It's very successful because they want to send their people, funded by George Soros, to beat people up and start riots. We don't do that. We say legally, lawfully go. And you were telling me you're aware of this movement.
Yes, I am. And someone sent a tweet about it the other day, and I said, hey, thank Alex Jones for that, because you started it. And
well, I want to thank the listeners that are going out and doing it. But yes, our listeners are who we thank, and they're awesome folks.
Yeah, apparently so.
Well, it's happening 2 or 3 times a day. Obama, Hillary, Bill, and I'm told Hillary was even in the Associated Press. She's getting pissed. In fact, she's saying she may cancel events because of it.
Well, of course, because she cannot face truth. This is one of the big things about Hillary. She can't.
Let's talk about her psychology. Yeah. I've had 2 Secret Service on, FBI on, everybody. They say she won't give tips. Little people she blows up at, don't look her in the eyes, and that she just blows up constantly. What's going on with her?
I explain this in a couple of chapters in the book, so it's pretty hard to cover it all right now. But we all know, even from Hillary's own autobiography, what a sad childhood she had with a controlling drill sergeant kind of father whom she never could please. I also think, and this is completely my opinion, based on what I know about sex addiction, that I believe Hillary was sexually assaulted by a female. I also believe that she was sexually assaulted by a male, possibly someone in military uniform, which is why she hates the military. She hates men. She hates women.
And that's you said that like 4 months ago when you were on it.
I said it, yeah.
But it's in the WikiLeaks. She hates the military.
Exactly. And I said she hates Americans. She hates everyone, don't you see? Because she hates herself. And you can look at a video of her, turn off the sound, and look at the hate coming out of her eyes. I mean, it's hate. And
well, that's what General Flynn said, former head of Army intelligence. And I've been told by folks there's a psychological dossier on her, and that's why the Russians have done their own breakdown. That's why everybody's so concerned. They say they believe she'll start major wars, that she hates everyone, and that she is extremely unstable. And General Flynn has said that. They believe she's unstable.
Well, the other thing, too, about the Russians, it's very interesting that Hillary is now blaming these WikiLeaks on the Russians. And think about that, people. The Clinton Foundation, Hillary, took tens of millions of dollars from the Russians.
$35 million, yeah.
Yeah. And turned over 20% of our uranium supplies to the Russians. And what Hillary does with the Russians and with everything else, pay attention to this very carefully. Everything that she does, that she says someone else does, like Trump, it's all projection 101. If she says Trump is racist, it's because she's racist. If he says he's controlled by the Russians, it's because she's controlled by the Russians. And it was very simple for the Russians, for anyone else, to find out who was behind the WikiLeaks. And if anyone thinks that Seth Rich was killed randomly in a robbery on
shot in the back
in Washington, think again. This guy was going to talk to the FBI, and anyone who knew anything knew it. Now, here's the other thing. They did not try to hide the fact that this was a hit. I mean, I grew up in Hot Springs. You know, Alex, I got some great chapters in here about Hot Springs.
That was the real mafia headquarters.
It was a wonderful place. It's a wonderful place to grow up and find out interesting things about people. But here's the deal. This was a hit, and they intended for people to know it was a hit because this is one of the ways they intimidate other people. It's like,
well, it's like Scalia. They announced the pillows on his head, that there will be no autopsy. The first announcement, then they put in the news, he was in a secret society there just to demonize him when it was a hunting society. And now we have Podesta, the chief of staff for Hillary, talking about wet work 2 days before he died, saying, get ready.
Well, and look what happened when Vince Foster died.
That was more wet work.
Died, and Billy supposedly found out about it on Larry King Live. And the first thing he said, now here's this friend of his since childhood, maybe since the playpen. I think their mothers were friends when they were pregnant, from Hope, Arkansas. And the first thing Billy says when he finds out his longtime friend is dead, he says, well, we'll never know what really happened. Really? We'll never know? That's his first reaction.
And he's shot in the head with no blood at the scene, obviously taken there.
Yeah, and that's his reaction. What would your reaction be if one of your longtime friends was committed suicide?
I'd get dizzy. I'd sit there and I'd say, really? I'd start crying.
Yeah, well, you're human.
But you were saying earlier on, Bill seemed more human. He seems to, am I wrong to say Hillary's the boss, though? From all my research over the years, all the witnesses, it seems to be she's the boss. She found this flawed guy. She made him worse. she wasn't a beard for homosexuality. She was a beard for his drug abuse and sex behavior.
It's hard to say that she really controls him. I talk about in the book, the attraction was that she is his mean, controlling grandmother. Remember, he was not raised by his mother for the first 4 or 5 years of his life.
Now, why does she get all glassy-eyed and keep calling Trump my husband? And then she only went off script to talk about me, and I'm not getting on a power trip because I don't want her attracted to me. But when she talks about me, she goes, how does he have such a dark heart? She gets like, ah. I mean, now when she attacks me, she kind of acts all weird. Like, somebody give a speech, when she talks about me, she gets real weird. What the hell's going on? It's really creepy.
It is creepy, and that's unfortunately not the creepiest thing about her. But
so, what do you think the psychology is? You're a lawyer.
Well, and you know, I was a psych major before I was a lawyer.
That.
Yeah,
you're a smart lady. So, what do you think's going on with her? She talks about Trump. She seems to get excited. Well, like she seems a little bit attracted to Trump. I mean, I pick up the body language. I'm sorry.
Well, here's the thing about Trump. He's a real man. He is a real man, and I think that's what's attracting a lot of people. Just like men were attracted to John Wayne in a way. I mean, you know, that he swaggers in and he takes control and he solves the problems. And I think that's what we all recognize that Donald Trump can do. We don't know how he's going to do it. And guess what? He probably doesn't know how either. But this is a successful businessman who knows how to delegate.
Well, he's just not out to get us. If they're just not out to get us.
And look who he chose for vice president. I mean,
look how he turned Mexican president in one meeting for him. Because I know it was said. Little Bird told me, he said, listen, you've been screwed over by globalism. Let's come together. Let's make both our countries rich. Let's break this multinational collateral system that wants us poor. He came out and the Mexican president was glowing.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's all we need to do is have prosperity.
Yes, and the other thing is, look at his first big decision. Mike Pence, for peace sake, what a fabulous guy.
We were going to talk about that. Look how Christie's about to get indicted. We've got former Speaker Gingrich coming out against Trump. Look how Pence has been really a stalwart. He did pick the right guy.
He picked an absolutely fabulous guy.
He's loyal.
Well, and he's bright, he's articulate, he's knowledgeable, he is principled. I met him and his wife in Florida last month, and I was very impressed with them, with both of them. I just think that this shows right up front Trump's ability to pick the right people.
I'm not groveling because I never act like this, but I mean, is Trump not a godsend?
I think so. And, you know, I said, I think it was in my Sunday school, I said, you know, for years, a lot of us Christians have been praying for our country, praying. And I believe God has a sense of humor, and it may be that Donald Trump is the answer to prayer. He is not the person that any of us.
But look at the Bible. It never was like that.
No, it never was. That's exactly it. God always chooses interesting people. And that's what we have here. We don't have the person who would be the stereotypical hero to come in and go to Washington. But what we have in Washington is a cesspool. And don't get me started on that. The Republicans trying to get
let's get more into Bill Clinton, more into your book. But I want to get into this.
Okay.
I mean, it's in the emails. They're out to get the average American. They hate their black supporters. They hate poor white supporters. It's like they want to make you dependent, then they disdain you when they make you dependent. The nastiness of these emails, there's so many thousands, I can't even keep track. How we're going to keep them dumb, we're going to keep them poor. We knew all this, but reading this, it's like, how the hell do you write this and send it to somebody? Like, I want to keep my employees poor. I want poor people, and I want them to. Meanwhile, you're like, I'm liberal. Oh, you know, it's just what the hell?
Well, I have a chapter in here in the book called The Plantation Mentality. And that's why I say everything that's happening is in this book. It's foreshadowed, it's foretold, it's explained. The foundation
really is
there.
Some weird Byzantine sharecropper.
It's all in here because nothing has changed in 45 years. And here's the thing. You talk about something that's racist. How about open borders? How about letting all these people come in here who will work for $4 an hour? What is that doing to our
they're a permanent underclass.
Exactly.
They're the new underclass to be the bottom and then to bring us down.
That's right.
Whereas I want to bring everybody up.
And African Americans and women and Hispanics who are here legally are the ones who are going to be the most hurt by this open borders thing, not to mention the rest of us.
And then it doesn't bring the other countries up. All the studies are done. Well, they admit the plan is to drive down wages, break us.
And why did Mexico build a wall on its southern border?
Oh, I know. Once you're informed, it's all hypocrisy. Yeah. So looking at this then, what does your gut tell you about the election? Because we have the internal polls. I told people like 3 months ago, and they said he was starting to lose. He was 10 points ahead. Suddenly he's 5 points behind. I said it's all bull. Then it keeps coming out. None of this is working. He's way ahead. Hillary's panicking. Her internal emails show this. Suddenly Homeland Security comes in to save the election from the Russians. This is unprecedented. If they try a coup in front of us of a landslide, what does Trump do? Because they're so mad. He says he's going to fight.
I hope he does. And what I say is this, Alex. Hillary cannot win this election. Now, she may be able to steal it, but she cannot win it.
Well, I mean, she has 200 people at her events. He has 30,000.
Exactly. I've been to some Trump events. Oh, my gosh. And they're not just there. The people are not just there. It's like an Arkansas Razorback football game.
They're all around. It's like a big camp out.
Absolutely. They're all excited. I mean,
by the way, it's people of every race, color, and creed, which makes the media so mad.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the media coverage stinks. And, you know, there's a chapter in here, chapter 47, Media Magic, or how to make a story disappear. And I'll bet you that most people who are watching have no idea that I filed a RICO lawsuit against Billy Clinton and his cohorts back in, 1998? A federal RICO lawsuit. No one knows that. You know why? Media Magic, how to make a story disappear. And Billy filed a motion in federal district court saying that he should not have to answer this case because he was a sitting president. And the district court said, sorry, Bubba, you got to answer. And he took it to the federal appeals court, and they said the same thing. We don't care if you're the sitting president. This is a federal lawsuit you need to answer. And he took it all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And what do you think? The Supremes ruled unanimously in my favor. And then Lisa Meyer of NBC, who did that fabulous, intense interview with Juanita Broaddrick about the rape, called me and wanted to interview me on the steps of the federal courthouse in Washington. Okay, great. Lisa called me the night before, and she said, Dolly, I'm sorry. We have to cancel the interview in the morning. And
that's how the executives kill it. They have a blockade on Danny Williams, his illegitimate son, reportedly. They have a media blockade on all this other stuff. Look at DrudgeReport.com right now. You're a TV viewer, radio listeners can go there. DrudgeReport.com. Obama claimed executive privilege and Hillary mess. Now we know it's come out in the emails. They never told us he declared it, but now it's confirmed the White House declared it. He had a nom de plume, a fake name. That's what the head of the EPA had to step down for, communicating with Hillary, working on all these deals outside of the Freedom of Information Act. So they're running clandestine operations against this country. Meanwhile, shock poll, no sign of allegation fallout yet. There's a whole bunch of polls. This is Rasmussen, though. It's not hurting Trump. He's really way ahead. So what does your gut tell you? Dolly Kyle, author of Hillary, the Other Woman, what are they going to pull? As a smart lady that knows these people, as a constitutional lawyer, been around a while, what's your gut tell you? Because I feel like 24 days out, we are just hurtling towards disaster. I mean, these arrogant, crazy, disconnected, Hillary can hardly go downstairs. She has seizures. She's all whacked out. She's got handlers sending emails about wet work, Scalia. I mean, we've entered the twilight zone. Don't they get we're not backing down? They just don't know. They're like a 100-ton freight train going up against a 500-ton freight train.
Well, Alex, the whole thing is mind-boggling because if you believe about the voting machines and the way they can be tampered, and if you believe that the ballots were, already marked for Hillary in a lot of places.
That's already happening in Florida and New York. No, it's confirmed.
Okay. And look what happened to the ballots for Bernie in California.
Oh, but he clearly won. Stanford University.
Absolutely. He would have won. So I don't know. And I remember, and I talk about this in the book because this was in Hot Springs in Arkansas when I was a kid, big time. I mean, they sold the ballot boxes at the end of the evening. My mother was a poll watcher. And they asked her if she'd like to stay for the barbecue and the auction. And she said, what auction? So they said at 9 o'clock, we auction off the ballot boxes, one precinct at a time. Hello.
And Al Capone used to sit right there at the, what's that big famous hotel in Hot Springs?
He was at the Arlington. They used
the Arlington, fourth floor.
Fourth or sixth.
Whatever, right there on the corner.
Yeah.
I've stayed in that room, yeah. And they would just auction everything off right there.
Well, Al Capone actually wasn't there.
That was earlier.
That was way earlier.
But I'm saying that the tradition started.
Yeah, and you know what? Some of my favorite chapters in here are about Hot Springs. People love those. It's good.
Dolly Kyle is a constitutional lawyer. I'm so glad we got her here in person. I just love the ladies, that are patriots in this country standing up to evil. She'll be with us about 15 minutes the next hour. Then Rob Dew's going to be taking over. Then she'll be a quick guest on the Nightly News. She's getting on an airplane back to Little Rock, Arkansas. But since you mentioned her, we've got a few of these clips. Here's Juanita Broaddrick supports Bill Clinton rapist protest movement. This is Breitbart News. Here it is.
Nobody can dispute the fact
that you're a rapist.
That we need.
Bill Clinton is a rapist.
I don't think he likes that very much, Dolly.
Well, I hope that no one gets hurt during this, but I hope it encourages people to say, why are they saying this? What does Bill Clinton have to do with rape? And then hopefully they'll research and find out.
Wow. I hadn't seen all of that. I just saw the one little
There's
blip
like
at the
25
beginning.
of them now. We can't even keep track of
But
them.
I mean, the crowd went crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's not going too well, is it? And folks stand up.
Well, you know, I say it's either whatever way you want to look at karma or reaping what you've sown or the chickens coming home to roost.
It's
time.
It's time. Here's another one with Mrs. Broderick. Hillary tried to silence me on Bill Clinton's rape, and now they're saying they fear for their lives. We got Podesta talking about wet work in emails now before Scalia dies. Okay, so here it is.
You saw Bill Clinton weeks later.
Yes, that was still in this period of shock and wondering what had happened and how I could have been so stupid to have allowed something like that to happen.
Still blaming yourself.
Still blaming myself. I just still blaming myself. And I realized that I have information that needs to go back to the campaign because I had not returned to the volunteering and, putting yard signs up, asking for donations and things like that. So I found about 3 to 4 checks to the Clinton campaign. They weren't but for $25 or $50. They were small checks. And then some list of people who were still going to donate. So I asked Norma, that was the lady that was with me at the time, if she would run up to that event with me. And I think she's the one that went with me. And we went up there long before the fundraiser was to happen.
This was a fundraiser in the home of a local dentist, correct?
Yes.
For Bill Clinton, running for governor.
Right.
Did you know that he was going to come and that he was going to show up with Hillary?
Oh, I'm sure that I knew that, but that's why we went 30 minutes early, so I could give the lady from Little Rock the checks and the list, and then we were going to get out of there. And they come in early from the kitchen area. And just before they do...
They would be Bill and Hillary.
Bill and Hillary Clinton. And just before they do, a gentleman who had driven them from the airport comes straight over to me. He was a very... He was supporting Clinton, but he didn't know what had happened to me, even though he was a friend. And he said, the topic of the conversation all the way from the airport was about you, and that startled me. And I knew I had to get out of there. Well, just as he moved, here comes Hillary straight for me and she gets to me and she starts saying, I just want to thank you for everything you are doing in Bill's campaign, and it's so nice to meet you and all of these things. So I just nodded and told my friend, let's go. And I thought somebody from behind had grabbed a hold of my arm, but it was her. She grabbed a hold of my arm and my hand, and she pulls me into her, and she says with this very angry look on her face, which had been so pleasant seconds before, and in a low voice says, do you understand everything you do?
This is
and that frightened me.
Genesis Communications Radio Network.
Talk radio was the original internet because you could call into it. It was uncensored to a great extent. It was long form. It was hard to have teleprompter heads in there. And it started getting really popular about the 70s, so they passed laws to not let there be political views, which, of course, it was all just liberal garbage. Then by the late 80s, they got rid of the Fairness Doctrine, and you saw the return of talk radio fusing with the internet right as it was being popularized. It was born, obviously, in the 60s. And so this format of talk radio /film /live feeds fusing with the internet is the future. And we've been doing it I've been doing this style show for at least 15, 16 years. We were the first. I'm not bragging. We did it through necessity just to reach people. I was a radio host who wanted to do internet TV. We've done it. And I'm very honored to be here. History's happening. And very few people actually get what's happening in the media, that it's not about your ABC, your NBC, your Fox. It's about you put out your analysis. You link to other people. You pick up this feed. You pick up that feed. You dip into lots of different things and get different perspectives and get outside the bubble. Google wants to make it all about, they keep you in your little plantation, your little niche, and they feed you what you think you want and then control you. And they've got all these algorithms out saying they're giving it. It's come out in the WikiLeaks to Obama, and they're targeting the undecided, 10 million voters to turn them for Hillary. Well, those are the undecided that don't just accept the Google results. They're hoping you just accept whatever you're given instead of looking at Google, looking at Yahoo, looking at AP, looking at Drudge, looking at WorldNet Daily, looking at InfoWars, looking at your email feed, looking at what people are sending you on Facebook, looking at what's on Twitter, reading what's in the local paper, shoot a video off local PBS of something happening, and then talk about it yourself. That's how you add new content that the globalists don't centralize. They just put out their big centralized reports, and then they just hope that we debate that little area instead of, I never did this on purpose. I would take some police state story or some corruption story, and I would talk about it on radio and make it national. Back when even most talk show hosts would just cover national stuff, very rarely would they cover something somewhere that happened. And I early on was like, why don't people do this? But I noticed Drudge was doing it. Drudge was starting, dominating by the time I got on air in like 95, 96. And I just remember like, oh, yeah, there's local stories and things. This is interesting. So it's kind of a breaking up the monopoly of who sets the table and who sets the menu. And I absolutely love it. I mean, I'm looking at a press conference here with his crying, member of his family up here praying with Danny Williams. This guy's totally real. That was such Veritas. It was so powerful. I feel so good being part of that. And we're putting in a live Trump feed, and we're getting ready to have guests on, and it's just amazing. Now, remember, listeners, this is the big fusion broadcast. If you want to see this stuff by itself, it's on Infowars.com. It's on DrudgeReport.com. Because I can't tell you how many people tune in and want to hear the press conference. I'm like, no, this is the show. This is radio. We have breaks. It's a format. I've got to follow it. But we've got the totally free internet for you right now. So it's like channels. We're like a network. So the press conference just broke up. So we've got a lot unfolding there. If David wants to go get with Danny in 10, 15 minutes and do a private interview as they've offered, we could pop in with that as well. We have Kathy Shelton joining us, who is one of Hillary Clinton's victims. And I guess we've got the Hillary famous clips and stuff ready of her laughing about it. But I'm going to let her and her lawyer come in here and get into all this. She's a little teenage girl, 12 years old, 13 years old. And I've forgotten more about the Clintons than most people know. I mean, seriously, I'm just so sick of them. I try to put it out of my mind sometimes. But Hillary's a monster, and this just shows her whole history and what she's been involved in and what she does. It takes somebody really evil, even with our corrupt government and our corrupt agencies, and then there are problems, obviously, to totally turn against her. The whole world's against her because they understand she's uber bad. Uber bad. Now, we're going to come back from break and play the Bev Harris crystallized, condensed interview on the biggest election fraud news ever, and then have our guest in studio. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. Bev Harris, I've been on air 21 years. I've interviewed you probably 30 times over the years. I've never been this blown away watching the video. It's on screen right now for radio listeners. They can go to Infowars.com. It's in the article, How America's Elections Are Being Hacked, Missing Link Discovered. This is just so bombshell. Or just go to blackboxvoting.org. Fraction Magic is the top story there on the left. Get this video from YouTube and make it go super viral. Where should we begin?
Well, we've found some new information, and I think it's the missing piece that we didn't have before. A gentleman by the name of Benny Smith out of Memphis, Tennessee, discovered what I would characterize as a master key, which essentially lets one person control with invisibly and with remarkable precision down to the precinct level and down to the type of voting, early voting and so forth, or whatever type they want. Many different locations at once, multiple counties and multiple states. It has actually been in the system since it is put in the system in 2001, but it came into wide use in 2006. But it kind of took someone with a special set of skills to know what to look for. He didn't just do like most of the people did, where he says, "Well, let me just look at the program and see what I think." He is a guy who has some background in political forecasting and so forth. and he knew what would be needed. He kind of went, let me design what I think would be needed in order to succeed with widespread election fraud. And after he did that, he went, now let me see if the pieces that I know are necessary are built into the system. They should not be. And he was amazed when he found, after looking at the files, that the pieces were built in to commit very large-scale fraud using a feature that had been very little known before. And so there's this one central computer, which at the end of the day, all the votes come to it. That's where you take it. You don't run around to 5,000 different things in precincts. You wait till the votes come to you, and then you have your way with them. And it's very, very precise. It's invisible, and there's absolutely, it doesn't matter whether the system's on the internet or not. None of the stuff that they say as a protection matters at all. You have your way with them. Then once you control the votes in whatever way you want, for whatever target you want, the election is done. Now, there is something new that can be done, and this is really exciting because it's kind of scaring the pants off of them, actually. And at the very end of the video, I make sort of a cryptic reference to it, but we didn't realize that more than half of the voting machines in the country now take a picture of every ballot. Even the touchscreen machines that supposedly have no paper are keeping an image of every ballot. But now think about this. You run a paper ballot through, and it takes a picture of it, and that's just an electronic file, right? You should be able to get that under public records request, right? It's just a file, and you ought to be able to get all those images. In fact, there was one county in California that was putting all those on the web. Why not? When they put them all on the web, guess what happened? Everybody looked and found out there was a whole precinct that never got counted at all by the machine.
Wow.
So, essentially, these ballot images are and must be public record, and people must ask for them. Now, let me tell you what happened when a gentleman from Arizona asked for them. He said, okay, I want, under my Freedom of Information rights, I want all your ballot images. Basically, you can do your own recount that way, right? And we did find that they do not succumb to the fraction magic attack. Well, when he asked for them, they said, we destroy them every day.
Bev, I know you never like it, but let me tell you something. I interviewed the other vote fraud experts that were before you, the Collier brothers and others, and they died, and their daughter, she's great, and other folks. I'm just saying, you are so dynamic. You've done with your crew and the folks 10 times what anybody else ever did. So that's why I single you out, because you're amazing, and you're such a treasure. All right, that's a boil down of the exclusive Bev Harris breaking news yesterday. It's so huge. Only Drudge Report has picked it up, and a few other liberty-based outlets. It's gotten millions and millions of readers and viewers, but you'd think national news that has had her with HBO documentaries, and she's been all over CNN, Fox, she's been everywhere, as the consummate expert, she discovers the biggest news of her 20-year research into this. She was a former top federal fraud investigator before that, and there's been no coverage so far. Maybe since I got on air there has been. We should Google that or search engine that. But that is such a big video. That's the boil down of the hour interview. We're going to be posting that in the next hour or so to Infowars.com. Now, joining us for the next 45 minutes in studio, we're also going to do some taped interviews with us for the nightly news, are Kathy Shelton and Candace Jackson. And Candace Jackson is a graduate of honors from Stanford University, a lawyer. I'm not going to get into her whole background, but she's just a great lady. They're not seeking anything right now from Bill Clinton. They're not out to even get anybody here. They're not out to get Hillary Clinton. They're just talking about the reality of what happened to her when she was a 12-year-old girl so long ago, when Hillary Clinton was a young lawyer. And so they're just seeking for the public to be aware of this. Now, we played the tapes. We'll play them later. I know it's hard for Kathy to listen to, of Hillary making jokes about the man that reportedly, who she got off, but raped her when she was 12 years old, and she was in a coma for days. And that's not disputed. And Hillary laughs that she knew he was guilty, but he took a lie detector and passed it, so that destroyed her confidence in lie detectors. It just shows the true mindset, the predatory nature of what we're dealing with. TheirLivesFoundation.net, TheirLivesFoundation.net. And again, Candace Jackson is her lawyer, just on her own dime, here doing this because she cares about women's issues and justice. Kathy and Candace, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Wow. So much to cover, so much to talk about. I'm going to skip this break so we have more time because I got to you late playing those clips. Why are you here first? I mean, for TV viewers and radio listeners, I think I kind of described what you talked about on your foundation site, what I've heard you say. I know you were at the debates. Mr. Trump had you there. I mean, why are you speaking out now? Because your case is documented. It's a fact what happened to you. Why are you speaking out?
Because Hillary's on tape laughing, saying that she knows that they're guilty and has made some other remarks and down the line. And I'm standing up for what's right for me because I know it happened. And she's trying to make me look like a liar and that I asked for it and all that. And
by the way, we should pull up a photo of you when you were 12. That's online. People can also go to theirlivesfoundation.net. We can put that website on screen for people so we can personalize this. I mean, you were a little girl. I have a 12-year-old daughter. I have an 8-year-old daughter. And, before I had daughters and children, I would get upset hearing about abuse of women and children. But now, I mean, I'm going to be honest, it makes me just start feeling very violent. Whenever I think about people abusing little girls, especially.
And I think what can't be underestimated is you take a case like this and the level of violence. Rape is always a horrible crime. This was no ordinary rape. He beat and almost murdered this little girl so badly she was in a coma for 5 days. So you top that off with there being absolutely zero justice for the victim, Kathy, in this case, and that's makes it a double tragedy. And that was deliberately designed and pulled off by Hillary Clinton.
Again, Candace Jackson, tell folks why you've gotten involved and then just encapsulate the case, and we'll get into the personal things that Kathy's gone through. But Candace, looking at this, I mean, what makes you a busy person, running your own law firm, very successful, all these big letters to your name, CandaceEJackson.com. What makes you spend so much time and energy on this, and then break down the nuts and bolts of the case?
Well, I have, over the years, writing about it, speaking about it, gotten to know some of the women who have accused Bill Clinton of sexual abuse very well. And I realized this year that Kathy's story is one that it's so different, it's so unique. It really does represent the epitome of the type of corruption that Hillary Clinton practices. It has nothing to do with her husband, Bill Clinton. It has everything to do with her choices, Hillary's own choices and decisions to bend and break rules, ignore protocol and procedures, cheat the system, rig the system to get an outcome that she wants.
And by the way, we now learn about Tim Kaine. He would cry when horrible rapists and killers and people, he was unable to get them off. And he said he enjoyed it. And there's these videos of him acting really weird. It's like some type of celebration. It's like, who are these people?
Well, you look at Hillary Clinton's career, and it baffles me so much that she has been allowed, mostly by our mainstream press and to the shame of her own party, to somehow be held up as some kind of champion for women and fighter for justice for children through 40 years of her career, when time after time she's chosen the side of rapists just to make herself look good, win this case, put into practice principles of liberal philosophy with regard to criminal policy. Let's not lock them up. It's not really the criminal's fault. Let's get him back out on the street.
Well, I'll tell you what, Counselor, that for TV viewers, there's camera too. I mean, lay out, this is a fact. I mean, lay out what happened in this case to people. And Kathy, right over there, staring at folks in TV land, anytime you want to jump in and talk to Hillary Clinton, talk to the media, because they can't deny your case. I mean, it's so powerful, and they're trying to take stuff with Trump and blow it out of proportion. Fine. If they ever got in trouble, then we could talk about Trump with something 50 times less, 100 times less. It's the hypocrisy. So Counselor, talking to the viewers out there.
The hypocrisy is astounding. You've got somebody out there who claims to be an early feminist, a fighter and defender and champion for women and children. That's her main pitch for herself is, I'm a woman. Vote for me to put the first woman in office. I've spent my life defending children. And here's what she did in this case. Her defenders will say she was court appointed. She had no choice. She had to accept this case, and then an attorney has to defend her client. Wrong. Hillary Clinton has been lying about this case her entire career. In her autobiography, she lies about how and why she accepted this case. In the audio taped interviews that exist when she chooses to talk about this case to a journalist, she's lying. She was not a public defender. She was not required by any judge to accept this appointment. She knew that the victim in this case was a 6th grade rape victim. She chose to take the side of the rapist, most likely because she, the judge, and the judge's barely law school graduate son were all supporters and donors of Bill Clinton for Congress at the time. They all shared a liberal philosophy about programs like work release for criminals, which Hillary and the judge released this criminal for work after reducing bail in this case from $50,000 to just $2,500. And then Hillary Clinton went on to use the most vicious blame the victim tactics that I have ever seen in a case, much less put forward by some kind of feminist.
I was about to say, studying this, it's one thing if you're a defense lawyer and you give people a good show and you give them a fair shake, even if you know they're guilty. She, with glee and every dirty trick and pouring it on, stuff that I think, I'm not a constitutional lawyer like you, but I've studied it, really, could get somebody disbarred in a lot of counties.
Oh, well, here's the types of tactics that she chose to use in this case. She made up lies wholesale about Kathy and her family. She said that Kathy was fantasizing about older men.
And before we go there, why don't you recap what happened? I mean, I know it's hard for Kathy to talk about, but maybe you should. Kathy, do you want to tell folks, just look at the camera over there and tell folks what happened to you?
I was riding my bicycle, or going a couple of blocks riding my bicycle over to church, and my mother really didn't want me to, but she let me and said after church she'd pick me up in the bicycle. I talked her into it because it was still daylight, because she always worried about me. But it was like a couple blocks away. On the way over there, this truck stopped. 2 men got out of it, started coming towards me, and it scared me really bad. And they told me I was going with them, and I said, no, I'm not. I tried to get away, but I couldn't. They jerked me off my bicycle. They put me in the truck. They started ripping my clothes off of me. I was screaming and crying, trying to holler for help, and it was like no one heard me. We go out on a road somewhere, just plum fields. I don't remember what road it is today. I remember all the fields, and they were beating me. And then they raped me, and he was saying he knew I liked it, except in a more terribly manner than that. I was left out on the ground, barely conscious. Sometimes at one time I was unconscious. I crawled to a porch out of nowhere. I don't know where the house was or how I made it there, but they thought they had killed me and they were coming back for me. And the lady at the porch I crawled at turned her porch light on, and it scared them back off. And she got their tag number, and that's how they caught him today. And
a girl beat in a field, and reportedly you were in a coma for, 5 days?
Yes, I woke up in the hospital 5 days later out of a coma, and was told that I couldn't, 99% chance I couldn't have kids, and I had several stitches down in my private area.
Now, I've read some about this, but correct me if I'm wrong. These were like kind of the cool good old boys or something, so I guess they kind of got special treatment. And then they must have been crazy good old boys to think you could rape a little girl out in the middle of a field and then get your tags, documented and still not basically fry for it.
To be honest, there's still a lot of unanswered questions and a lot unknown about the background of this case. We've been working very hard at Their Lives Foundation as a pure act of love to try to uncover facts around this case. It's not easy to do. Not surprisingly, in a case like this, that the Clintons would prefer remain buried and hidden, lots of records have disappeared. This is now 41 years ago. The suspect, who was 41 years old at the time, died in 1992. I've spoken to family members of him. There's a lot of vagueness about what his life was like, what he went on to do, et cetera. So there's a lot of information missing about this case, and that's part of why we are digging hard to pull together the true facts.
Sure. Well, a lot of the left has made a big deal about rape culture, and God, I know it goes on, but then they project it onto, like, you know, stuff where it's very vague, and maybe she, you know, had too much to drink and she didn't know. Okay, fine, whatever. That's bad. Don't do it. But when people are beating and raping 12-year-old girls and ripping their bodies open and putting them in comas, I have daughters. Seriously, it makes me so angry that I don't usually shoot my mouth off about, you know, being aggressive. But if this, I just can't see how Hillary and the judge and the town and everybody just didn't care. I mean, they were just throwing you away.
Yes, sir, there was. And she is now today is telling stories like it was a family member, and I said they can check my family history. He's not no family member. Says they asked me to get in the truck, offered me a Coke to get in, and that is not true. I've heard several different stories now. There's just all kinds of stories going around that's not true.
Well, we all know how it works in Arkansas and some areas of Texas. Money gets paid and people get off.
Sure, and I think that there was a legitimate divide. Not every single person involved with this case was happy and pleased about the fact that a violent criminal in their community went free. But people like the judge and the judge's son and even the prosecutor to some extent were on the Democrat liberal side of things philosophically and truly believe that rehabilitation should trump punishment. And maybe it's not criminals' fault that they act this way.
Sure, and again, we have the audio of Hillary. We've played it many times. We'll probably play it when we come back, admitting she knew he was guilty. She couldn't believe it, that he passed a lie detector, which destroyed her faith in lie detectors, then laughs about it. And again, it's not just once. She got kicked off the Watergate committee for falsifying stuff. Her whole life is like doing evil things when doing good would have been better for her.
You would think so. Why would she stand up and try to get this rapist off when she could have joined the side of the victim and spoken up like some early Gloria Allred on the side of the victim? But no, she chooses the side of the rapist every time.
And now her and Michelle want to get up and be all breathless about Donald Trump, and they're so scared. And so we'll be right back with both of our guests. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. Stay with us. I'm Alex Jones, your host. We're now T-minus 6 days out from the most historic election in U.S. history. Every corrupt, evil regime, from the communist Chinese, the biggest mass murderers in history, the biggest abusers of women in history, the Saudi Arabians, and all the big banks and the major media and the think tanks and the lobbyists are lined up against Donald Trump. They came out with this outrageous claim that no one would run with for months. I mean, we'd even seen it floating around, that they had tracked some server. They could easily, they were really smart, get into one of his hundreds of hotels and things and actually make a link and create a false flag, but they don't even do that. They go, oh, we have chatter between a Russian server and Trump. Even the New York Times said it's total bull. Turned out, it came out in the New York Times today, Drudge had the big headline, that they have been inside investigating Trump, the FBI has, with warrants, everything, digging. It's why he kept saying, I'm under an audit right now, I can't tell you. See, Trump didn't tell you they edited the Billy Bush tape. It's totally, you could hear it, but now it's going to come out after the whole deal, because he knows the public will think he's looking like a wimp if he sits there and doesn't just apologize. And I'm saying what he did was perfect. Billy Bush goes, actually, I goaded him for an hour to tell me sex stories, and then we edited it. I mean, that's what they got. But the point is that Hillary's the one with the secret server to the Russians. Podesta's the one. Everything they do, they then accuse us of. They accuse me of being a Russian agent. I think I know babushka means a baby. I think goulash means like that good, like soup, like hash meat. I mean, I don't know anything about Russians. I want to go to Russia someday. I hear it's really neat to see. It's historical. I've read history books about it. But I mean, it's just like I'm sitting here defending the republic, just trying to sustain our country and get some tax cuts so we can get our economy going. And I'm being called a Russian agent. America is rejecting all of this big time. And I've never gotten into a campaign like this because I was usually, McCain, Obama, Now, this is so clear. This is such an incredible time to be alive, just to repudiate the entire system. Does it mean we're going to be on some bed of roses after that? Absolutely not. We're going back to our guests, constitutional lawyer Candace Jackson, and, of course, Kathy Shelton, Their Lives Foundation.net, with all she's gone through. Confirmed, raped at 12 years old. Hillary Clinton admitting in tapes, we're going to play some of it, that she knew that her client was guilty, but didn't care because he was all part of this Politico system. Before we go any further, though, and then Leanne's going to be popping in, I asked her to come on. Leanne is so humble as a reporter. She's an expert on this case, really followed it, is doing a piece on the Nightly News. I said, well, you come on, Leanne, talk about this. And she's like, I don't want to barge in and everything. So I said, Leanne, it's the media. You're going on air. Everybody loves Leanne. So she's coming on to talk to us here in just a moment, bring up some of her points. But we have the final 24 hours to save 30 to 40% off on super high quality, produced here in America, in Utah, storable foods. 24 hours left. Normally, we have a 10% discount, private labeling, My Patriot Supply. It's the exact same food. We sell their whole catalog right next to it at InfoWarsStore.com. But we can do this occasionally under our contract, 30 to 40% off. The lowest discount is 30%, as high as 40%. Now is the time to take action. There's a reason FEMA report predicts a 395% increase in food prices that could trigger mass unrest. Look at all the stuff the globalists are doing. They want us dependent. We should be independent. We don't know exactly what's coming, but we can start getting ready for whatever may happen. 34% off, InfoWarsStore.com. That's InfoWars Select. InfoWarsSelect.com takes you right to the subpage. We have the ProPure G2 Gravity King filter, the biggest system they've got. Sits on your countertop. Amazing. Cuts all the garbage out. 30% off, InfoWarsStore.com as well right now. And finally, some of our sponsors, Solutions from Science Solar Generator. I bought one from them. Now they've upgraded it many times, 10 years ago, because it was the best, highest rated, lowest cost, expandable unit. So I wanted to start with something medium size and build out a control panel, and a few panels. I bought another one last year. Actually, I had one for the office, one for home. Of their latest system, the Perfect Power Solar Generator, and it is amazing. It's expandable. It has a wind input, so you can plug wind power into it to the battery system, and even produces pure sine wave power, so you can run medical equipment or even military-grade electronics. Go to PowerGridChaos.com. That's PowerGridChaos.com. Save 70% while supplies last. That's PowerGridChaos.com. So save over 70% while supplies last. PowerGridChaos.com. And it is your purchase and support of the products and everything we do here that makes it all possible. I'm not bragging, but we've got reporters covering live Danny Williams press conferences. We've got reporters out with all the political events that are happening. We are breaking many of the major news stories every day that are game changers in the promotion of private property, the Second Amendment, justice, sovereignty, common sense, Americana, free association, classical liberalism. We're the tip of the spear. And I want to thank you, listeners, for your prayers, your support, visiting the store, spreading the word, sending our videos out, because I don't want to be a slave of the globalist. You don't want to be a slave of the globalist. We're all in this together, and our ideas, our understanding is becoming the main narrative because it's real. The military, from the highest level to the lowest, clicks with us because they know what we're saying is accurate. It's not the fantasy land that's on mainstream TV. And we're real people. We're not scripted. We didn't script this interview beforehand. We didn't script that press conference you just saw. We're just taking action, rolling our sleeves up, and doing the best job we can. So Candace Jackson, again, a lawyer, just free of charge doing this, doing a great job with Kathy Shelton, the 12-year-old, when she was a rape victim by a whole bunch of men, in a coma for 5 days, her body torn apart. TheirLivesFoundation.net. We can put up images of you when you were 12 and what happened. Candace recapping this and why it's such a miscarriage of justice. And then anytime, Kathy, you want to pop in. And then we've got Leanne McAdoo, who I drug in here because she's really hot about this case. She's angry about it, and I am too.
Well, people should be angry about this case. It is unbelievable, the hypocrisy that Hillary Clinton is getting away with to have this reputation and self-promotion as a defender of women and children's rights activist, and then deliberately, voluntarily choose to take the side of a child rapist here and do not only everything within the bounds of legal ethics and law to get him off. That would be bad enough that she chose to do that and be on his side. But in order to win her case, in order to look good, in order to prove that she can win, she bent the rules. She went outside proper procedure. She violated court orders. These are things that we're uncovering by the day in this case because, hey, guess what? The mainstream media has never bothered to do it. They've taken Hillary Clinton's previous explanations and descriptions of this case at face value and never challenged a bit of it. And we are unraveling everything she has ever said about this case. And it turns out most of it's flat out lies.
What I don't get is, I've seen the old newspaper articles, I've done research on this. They admit you got raped, this happened. They admit you got grabbed in the truck and taken off. A bunch of 40-year-old men drag a 12-year-old off in a truck to a field. I say execute every one of them. You know, I mean, this is so obvious. How the hell did this happen with this Democrat judge and all this? And it's just everything. She just gets away with everything.
Yeah, there is a handwritten notation in the court record. This judge has a history, we've learned and uncovered, of being pro-work release for criminals, for example. Get this, he handwrote a notation in the court order, no objection to release to work during the day. So even the very little time, few months that this creep actually spent in jail, he was released during the day to go to work. You know where his workplace was? A 5-minute walk away from Kathy Shelton's house. What kind of judge agrees to do that, and what kind of defense attorney asks for that in the first place?
So whatever ended up happening, I know about the ruling and stuff.
Yeah.
But
well, yeah, I mean, in the end, Hillary Clinton monkeyed around with the evidence, manipulated the system enough to argue that there wasn't enough physical evidence to convict. The prosecutor rolled over in this case, by the way. There's zero evidence that he challenged Hillary Clinton's unsubstantiated stories about the physical evidence not being sufficient. So between the prosecutor rolling over, also a liberal Democrat, the judge cooperating, and Hillary Clinton having insider help to kind of make all of this happen, the end result was that before jury trial actually occurred, a plea bargain was reached. The guy pled to a much lesser charge, was sentenced to a year in jail, but it does not appear that he actually spent any time in jail.
So I probably should have said that up front. That's right. You know, he pled to a lesser charge. She, quote, got him off, but they admitted, I was trying to deny it all, they'd done this. And I just can't believe the community didn't lynch these people because, again, it's just, I've read the old newspaper articles. It was so cut and dry. You're grabbing a 12-year-old girl off a bike, a bunch of old men. I mean, you know, 40's old. I mean, it just makes me absolutely, just imagine my daughter's out riding bikes. And I'm just sorry. I'm just telling everybody right now,
even
you're not getting to trial. Just understand that.
Even this perpetrator's family members that I've been able to track down recently, they say, yeah, he moved around a lot. He was kind of hiding from us all. He didn't really keep in touch. So, you know, he must. He
knew to hide out.
He knew to hide out. But I would not be surprised if the community was up in arms about this. But nobody could fight the system when it's being rigged by the defense attorney, the prosecutor, and the judge.
Unbelievable. All right, Kathy Shelton, I want to bring Leanne McAdoo in here because she's covered a lot of the angles of this. But looking at camera 4 right over there, what is your message to the American people? Or if you'd like a message to Hillary Clinton, I mean, just this is your chance. Millions of people are watching. You know, I can imagine the things happened to me when I was younger. Nothing like this. They scarred me for life. I mean, I know I've read the statistics, I've seen it, but I haven't experienced it, what it can do to somebody's whole life when they're innocent and sweet and not ever having the first experience of somebody being loving or nice to you, but just having a bunch of pigs do this to you and put you in a coma, and then her protect him. What would you like to say to him?
She would do anything to get to a high spot where she wants to be. That includes lying under oath, cheating, stealing. If she was for women, she's never showed me any remorse or ever had any words to say to me since this has happened. She's always said, I'm a liar. I'm a liar. Well, evidence of hospital records and police records and even the underwear that she sent to her crime lab, she cut out the blood evidence, and when she sent it to the crime lab, there wasn't enough to test because what she cut out was the part they needed. And
she was kicked off the Watergate thing for falsifying evidence, too.
This is a lifelong pattern for her that began at the very beginning of her career, and she's followed it up through her attitudes about setting up a private server and lying and covering up her activities that way, too. It's the same pattern.
Kathy Shelton, again, continue. Other stuff you want to tell them? What do you want to say to Hillary? Because believe me, she watches. What do you want to say to Hillary all these years later?
I want to say if this was her daughter that happened to, and this was her first case for her daughter, would she got hurt? Would she got these men off? would she have protected him from her daughter? I don't believe she would have. I believe she would have come forward then because it would have been her daughter. But since it was somebody she didn't know at all, and I'm nothing to her, so, you know, just like any other woman or child that she says she's for, I've heard many times that the hotline she had going, when you called it, the number was supposed to call you back, and people didn't get a call back from the number.
Well, look, I mean, it's normal to have empathy as a human being. Anybody's daughter is my daughter or son, but these people don't have it. Now, they might care about their family, but only because they see it as some extension of themselves, and they're so blind, and our society seems to be run by these really handicapped individuals that are sociopathic.
Yeah, emotionally, psychologically, empathetically handicapped is a good way to put it. There just doesn't seem to be that. I think even if you had defended a guilty client in a horrific situation like this, when you choose to describe the case later like Hillary Clinton did, you would think, if you have any human decency in your heart, that you would be describing that case starting out by saying, this was terrible, this was
I know defense
sad.
lawyers.
Instead, she laughs and she treats it lightheartedly.
By the way, we have that clip, and we're going to Leanne McAdoo. Since you mentioned it, that's a great point. Here's Hillary. This is undisputed. CNN tries to say this tape's fake. Hillary admits it's real. Here's Hillary, you know, making jokes. Here it is.
Of course, he claimed that he did all this stuff. He took a lie detector test. I had to polygraph, which he passed, which forever destroyed my faith in polygraphs. But you know what was sad about it was that the prosecutors had evidence, among which was his underwear.
His what?
His underwear, which was white. Sat down at the crime lab for Bill Beckett's reform crime lab took a pair of underpants, neatly cut out the part that they were going to test, and tested it.
Now, that's Hillary bragging to journalists, she thinks are her friends, that she cut the blood out of his underwear, her blood. And she's getting off on it. It's like, what frickin' planet does this demon come from? And that's the thing. In all the WikiLeaks, which confirms everything you said, they get off on bad. Where they could do better doing good, they don't. They want to do bad.
Well, she talked about having public positions versus private positions, and apparently public position is I need to be a defender of women and children. Private position?
I cut the blood off his underwear.
I'm proud of getting somebody off like this. I just want to win. I want to get ahead, win, and look good. That's who she is.
Well, I mean, most lawyers I know won't even take your case if they're good lawyers unless they think you're in the right. But then there's these weirdos that get off on representing bad people. Let's go to Leanne McAdoo. Leanne, we're going to break. I want to hold you through the rest of the interview, and I want you to do extensive interviews after because we flew them down here, and I know you're on the case. I mean, what is it like? Just one more piece, but it's not just like this one case. And Hillary admitting, yeah, I covered up that he raped her. I cut the bloody underwear out. And giggling like a damn demon. It's like, it's everything. It's total proof. America and the world is being shown the proof.
Right. I mean, just listening to Kathy retell her story about what happened, and then to know Hillary Clinton took this case voluntarily because she owed a favor to the judge. How does she sleep at night? And then you hear her years later laughing about it and almost so proud of how she was able to manipulate the law. And I think that's...
I saw he died. Ha, ha, ha.
That's what people need to understand about her, is that this was kind of the foundation. This sets the precedent for the type of principles that Hillary Clinton has. Once again, here she is on the wrong side of history. As Candace says, time and time again, she's taken the side of rapists, throwing the victims under the bus. And, this is the tactic she uses again and again. Oh, well, you want to accuse my husband of sexual assault? Well, I'm going to accuse you of sexual assault. Oh, I set up an illegal server. Well, guess what? You have a server too. It's connected to Russia. And then she says, well, I'm a champion of women, but behind the scenes, she's working tirelessly to get off a rapist who raped, nearly murdered a 6th grader. And she knew he was guilty.
I've got a 12-year-old daughter, and I tell you, this makes me, I'm not just saying it for audience, it actually really gets to me. It pisses me off.
Me too. This Hillary Clinton is pathological. Just the fact that she's a pathological liar.
Well, Leanne, you know my 12-year-old daughter. Can you imagine anybody's 12-year-old daughter that's happening to?
No. I mean, I was a 12-year-old girl. I know what it feels like. So I can't imagine Hillary Clinton blaming Kathy and that she asked for it at 12 years old, as if you have any understanding of what it is.
And then ruining somebody's life, I would say, to a great extent. We'll talk about that with Kathy Shelton ahead. I mean, obviously, you've had a good life, but I mean, this has got to be traumatic. Leanne, stay there. We'll be right back straight ahead. Infowars.com. Kathy Shelton broke down during the break and has been sobbing here, and she's been trying to compose herself. I know it's hard for her to talk about this, but this is the real humanity of what Hillary Clinton has done to people. And I just can't imagine, you know, it's one thing for bad things to happen, but I'm told if justice is done sometimes, that you know, provides some form of relief. Why when you heard Leanne talking, or I guess I was talking about what happens to young girls, how it changes their lives, you began to break down as we went to break. Why did you break down?
Because of all the things I read about Hillary, everything, books, movies, she's got me in it, and it's like, it's funny. It's her first case. It's like, it's funny it happened to me. It don't mean no remorse to her or nothing. And she's supposed to be for women and children, but this is funny. Oh, I won my first case, and you know, and it's all funny and all the stuff she's written.
That is rubbing it is the cackling. She makes a failed state in Libya. They kill tens of thousands, almost 100,000 people. She starts and then she makes jokes about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but even her own staff admit in the WikiLeaks they hate her. They can't stand her. They say she has horrible judgment. They call her a demon, basically.
And somebody who's just comes off as a mediocre, unlikable candidate in person. She doesn't have that humanity.
But there are corporate interests that want to put her in because she'll do the things nobody else will. Kathy, anything else you'd like to add?
She says that I went blank. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I just
me getting torn down a little bit. It's got me kind of going blank. But
no, I understand. Well, I mean, what made you so upset?
Totally made me look. She's totally made me look like I'm a liar and that I've asked for this. Trust me, if I could turn all this around, I would rather it not happen and me not have to go through all this. But actually, right now, I'm actually kind of being re-dramatized again, having to get up and tell all this. But you know what? Somebody's got to stand up and tell the truth. Because she sure ain't. She's just going to make it, you know, oh, well, that was my first case. I got off, so, hey, it looks good. I don't care what happened to her.
Well, you're protecting other people. You're protecting other people. You've transcended her 1,000 times, and you're helping other people, and you're a human, and she's not. Let's just be honest. Leanne?
I want to say one more thing. She's also said that I came from the other side of the tracks, ever what that's supposed to mean.
Oh, she hates anybody that's poor or a minority. She really hates poor people. And then she claims she's this big champion. What do you think? We're going to break back with Leanne. Everybody extend this a little bit into Gerald Celente because it's so important. What did you think of meeting with Trump, him having a press conference, him bringing you there?
Hillary's never showed no remorse. The first time I met Donald Trump, he hugged me and he said, I am so sorry for what happened to you. And Hillary has never once showed me any remorse of any kind. It's like she laughs. She doesn't care.
Well, for a fact, Trump loves America. He's not perfect, but he hates seeing us get screwed over. That's why the whole corrupted leader against him. How obvious is it that the whole bad group we don't like is against this person? I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Oh, I think, yeah, not even a comparison, and anything that Trump has been accused of saying does not compare to what Hillary Clinton has chose to do for 40 years of her career.
We're going to come back in 70 seconds. I want Leanne to chime in. I saw Leanne got some tears in her eyes. My sister works here. She takes photos, does a great job, and does editing for us. She's because I mean, they admit he pled to this. This went on. This happened. And she brags and tells people. We played the clip earlier. I don't know if it came across on AM radio, but it comes on FM. I mean, she just makes fun of how she got him off and covered up the blood on his underwear when he raped this girl. I mean, Hillary Clinton is a goddamn demon. Excuse me, that's what she is.